What the fuck? What the fuck? How did this happen? Here's what happened. Hello, my name is Samm Levine.
Who are you talking to?
I'm talking to the people. Couldn't resist. He couldn't resist. I'm not Chat Show. Chat Show is directing a feature in Bulgaria. That's right, the one just south of Romania, that Bulgaria, not Bulgaria, Texas. I confuse the two myself often. He's gone. I don't know if we'll ever see him again. I hope he got his tetanus shot, and I hope he's doing well. And we miss you, we love you, congratulations, and thank you for letting me handle this nonsense.
I told him not to come back.
The wonderful Jamie Foxx is here. I was just about to get to you. I was going to say we got to keep you, and you didn't have to head off to the Eastern Bloc.
No, because some fool let her passport expire because I'm lazy.
Uh-oh.
But no, I wouldn't have gone anyway. I have lots of visitors, so I'm preoccupied. I have lots of house guests.
Oh, good.
So yeah, it's good.
Well, we're thrilled to have you.
Thanks.
If both of you are gone, it's like if the president and the vice president, they can't be in the same room, you know, when they're like out of town or whatever. It's for safety precautions. Well, we're thrilled to have you.
You in Booty Call, by the way.
Yes, in Stealth, Collateral. I like to name all the obscure Jamie Foxx movies. Yeah, I like to name all the obscure ones.
Okay, I'm gonna make this little business very fast. If you have not yet seen the Netflix series Wet Hot American Summer First Day of Camp, what the fuck is wrong with you? Get on it.
Features a lot of our past guests.
Amazing. It features dozens of our past guests.
You got Showalter, Josh Charles, Joe Latrulio, Ken Marino.
David Wayne.
David Wayne. We've had. Yeah, we've had a lot of
Michael.
We're still working on it.
Really?
Yeah. And he's a New York guy. He's out in the
yeah,
wilds
Oh,
of Connecticut.
Paul Rudd. Duh, of course, Paul Rudd's been a guest.
Well, of course. Yeah. So check it out. And, you know, if you happen to catch my voice in it, good for you. Next week, we will have a show on August the 23rd. Our guest is a lovely person named TBD. I don't know if that's initials or something.
They're really on the rise.
Yeah, they're doing very well. Please tune in to see that one because there will be no show on the 30th as both Kevin will be in Bulgaria still and I will be in Austin, Texas for a good long while. Pretty much all of September into October. So if you live in the Austin area and you want to do a nice thing, bring me a nice cold glass of water because it's too fucking hot. It's too hot, it's too humid, and I'm Jewish, and that's just not right.
Are you in the habit of accepting unsealed liquids from strangers?
Yes, if it came from this show. We have a very trustworthy audience.
All right.
I will put it off no longer. Episode 244, and boy, do we have a good one for you today. Those of you who've got eagle ears and eagle eyes have already seen our guest, but I'm still going to read this lovely introduction for him anyway.
I want to hear it.
Excuse me, I'm just going to take a sip here. Lot to get out. Our guest today likely accomplished more this morning than I have in the previous decade. He's a showbiz veteran with over 30 years of nonstop work. You, of course, know him from his on-screen roles in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, The Italian Job, and the Austin Powers trilogy, just to name a few. Utilizing his vocal talents, he can be heard in every episode of Hulk and the Agents of Smash, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and Family Guy, again, just to name a few. But he's become as well known for his behind-the-camera and microphone work with the success of his production company, Stupid Buddy Studios, and their flagship show, Robot Chicken, which he writes, produces, and sometimes even directs. He's a titan of the industry, and he's actually pitched, sold, and finished production on 5 new projects since this introduction began. Please welcome the Ryan Seacrest of the Jews, Seth Green.
Nice.
My pleasure. Oh, yeah. It's true, though.
Ryan works really hard, too.
I've
known him like 25 years, and I've watched him steadfastly do this, like dedicatedly, intentionally do this, and it's impressive.
It is, but I won't let you for 1 second get away with acting like, oh, I don't also work equally as hard.
Oh, yeah, you gotta work hard, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to.
But you bring that to a whole other level. I mean, I had the good fortune of coming to visit you at your studios not long ago.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, I knew you were working on a few things,
Right.
Well, Andrew's got 2 or 3 things going right now. I showed up there. I lost count at like the sixth project.
You know, I've got partners and we delegate, and you build a staff for whatever the production is that you're gonna do.
But even so,
it's not like I'm managing it all.
No, but
I've
got
a lot of help.
But you're very involved in everything.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
You know, I imagine you're CC'd on just about every email.
Yeah. Although I tell people, don't email me. And if you need me to read an email, you should text me and tell me that there's an email, and then give me the title of the email so I can find it.
So it's your inbox has gotten to that point.
I'm gonna show you something funny, just because I want to look at the email icon and count how many emails there are.
Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you at home and listening, that is 5,572 unread emails.
So I'm just like, don't email me, man.
That is good to know.
FYI, CC Nick on that.
Yeah. So we pride ourselves on research here at Kevin Pollock's Chat Show, as I was mentioning to you before.
Good. That's a derelict thing in the modern journalism.
It really is. I was listening to your old Fresh Air interview on NPR.
Oh yeah.
And I was.
How cool was that?
First, that was awesome.
I was so excited to get asked to do that. She's amazing.
She was great.
Really flattered to get to.
And I was enjoying the hell out of it because it was like, oh, this is what a proper journalist sounds like when they interview someone.
Yeah.
Like they pretend that the audience listening literally knows nothing going in, and they give you all the relevant information and then ask pertinent questions.
Yeah, well, the internet kind of leveled the playing field for the intake of somebody's voice, you know, because you don't really differentiate between someone who's got accreditations or any kind of experience versus someone who's writing in the message boards on mydickgottoogross.com or whatever it is that you're doing. I don't know. So I tried to
someone register mydickgottoogross.com and sell it to Seth.
No, I wouldn't buy that.
I wouldn't buy
that.
All right, I'm buying it. Email me.
You should.
Let me know.
I tried to run out. That's where improv goes bad, guys. Because you just never deny, but then you're yeah, I should have.
It's all right. I'll take it. No,
all I mean is that everybody's given the same level of credibility, and you don't necessarily discern between whose words should or should not have value. You you read a comment somewhere, you read a report somewhere, and you're like, I'm gonna spew back this soundbite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing I did notice. From all these, and I personally probably listened to.
Am I prone to segue?
No. I personally listened to maybe 5 or 5.5 of your interviews that you've done previously.
Really?
Again, nothing but free time. I'm the antithesis of you. In so many of these interviews, like my heart breaks a little because you get on there. And this is not a slight in any way, but you get on there and like, our guest today is Seth Green, you know him from All These Voices, and you're like, hey, how's it going? And it's like you're always hoarse when you're doing these interviews. I'm like, I know, it's because he was in a booth until 11 o'clock the night before screaming.
I run myself really ragged, yeah.
You really do,
yeah.
And I worry about you,
Don't
and that's why we brought you here.
Oh, you're sweet. This is an intervention?
It's an intervention.
You're not the first.
We're desperate to ask you to take some time off.
No, I've actually gotten really good about that, about like where to balance, where my limits are, and sort of what my threshold for taking on work is.
Good. Because, we're Jewish, we worry.
The very first time that we did Robot Chicken, the first season that we did it, it was like 13 months of production, and I tried to do a movie on location at the same time. And I filmed in, it was London and Budapest.
Ooh.
And so the time difference really fucked me on trying to watch edits at reasonable time, or the fact that there wasn't like high-grade internet in 2005 in Budapest. So I was like,
or 2010.
Out on a balcony wrapped in a blanket in the blizzard, like trying to watch this thing with dial-up. I got really sick that year.
Oh no!
So sick that my doctor was like, "Hey, so that's the limit. That's as far as that goes."
Oh.
And so now when I'm doing robot, well, especially now that I've delegated a lot of the responsibility of like the day-to-day direction, I just have to be involved in stuff that has a little less of urgent deadlines, you know, and that helps me to be able to do other stuff without running myself too ragged.
That's good.
But I run myself ragged.
You really do.
Yeah, but you know what, dude? That's the actor thing. That's because you can take it. You can take it. You can like work all day in the icy pond and then shoot with no turnaround in the important diner scene where you're having the emotional whatever, and you gotta just be fucking ready whenever.
And you are, and it's weird. It almost seems like you, to a degree, enjoy running yourself ragged. Like I feel like you would really hate it if you had nothing going on? Like, I feel like you'd go stir crazy pretty fast.
No, it's gonna sound silly, I just get really creative. Like when
that's great.
when you like close a lot of projects,
Yeah.
and then you get to go sit on a beach or in some old city or
Yeah.
in a field, whatever it is you like to do, or in your own house, wherever it is that you like to go to, like, did it. That's
Yeah.
usually when I just get flooded with new shit.
Yeah, I know you do like to travel. I know that's your
I do.
one of your vices there. if we
Well, it's
call
good I
it a
like
vice.
people. I think because I like people.
Yeah.
And as a performer, I like to study people and see people from all different backgrounds and all different upbringings and all different, levels of experience and sort of how that's affected what kind of personality they have. And I love, I'm sure like Sam Rockwell, just stealing little bits of people's real lives and putting that into a character because you know that it holds water. You know that that's a trait that exists, that has value, that comes from a specific type of pathos. And that's my favorite. So. But that yielded something that I hadn't expected, which is an even better life lesson, because I love to travel all over and meet people from all over the world. And the bit of information that I've gotten from all that is that people are the same. No matter where you go, no matter where in the world you are, no matter what society you are, what culture you're in, human beings are the same all over the world. You want a couple of very basic things. To feel safe, to feel important, to feel understood, to eat, you know what I mean? And to sleep. It's really basic. Everybody wants the same thing. There's just a cultural overlay that separates us and makes us say, oh, you can't possibly understand me because you don't pray that way or you don't wear the hat and the pin and we all do this, so you can't, you don't get us, dude.
Yeah.
And that's the bullshit of it. Yeah.
Where is your favorite place that you've traveled? If you could pick one.
Yeah, I don't know. I've seen some pretty amazing stuff that's been really important. My wife and I went to Peru with some friends of ours, and we did a bunch of tours around like Incan and pre-Incan cities and civilizations, and areas that still have a lot of Incan and pre-Incan like Wari construction.
Yeah.
There's functioning cities with people living in them now, and so it's just the preservation of an ancient type of thing, but modernized. I kind of love that. And plus we went into these old places, they're 800, 900 years old. And we look at the architecture and the construction, we go, well, they had to have fucking aliens. There's no way they could have done this. And we really take for granted that human beings were somehow dumber than we are just because they have different experience. They still had the same ability to interpret things. They didn't discover the wheel 800 years ago. They made all these I don't know. It's cool to stand in those places and imagine people, what was their school? What was their social? Where did they, gather and commune? Did they put on plays? What did the kids want to do? What was their work like, their daily work? Yeah. You stand over a city like Machu Picchu, and you can really see the scope of it. It looks like Burbank, looks like Burbank.
Yeah.
So I like that. You look at things like that, you go, we're not that different, and you feel connected to something that feels older than you.
Burbank, the Machu Picchu of the greater
of the
Los
United
Angeles.
States. Yeah.
I think they've got a new slogan, and I think you need to pitch that to them.
That's me, Trump's campaign slogan. Come to Burbank. It's the Machu Picchu of America.
What are you gonna do? I own it now. Trump presents Burbank. So let's go back. Let's go way back.
All right.
Let's go back to Philadelphia.
Okay.
A little boy.
Yeah.
Parents are teachers.
Yeah.
So both of them sane people, real jobs.
Mm-hmm.
What happened?
Went to school, college, and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What happened to their little boy that he thought, no, I don't want to. I want to be that guy.
I don't know. I don't know about you.
Please.
And I talk to a lot of actors who all have different origin stories. But for me, I always just really knew it. I had this very strong inclination towards performing and felt the most normal.
Yeah.
And didn't allow anyone else to tell me that I couldn't do that. Mm-hmm. I was certain, like more certain than really anything I've been in my life, except that I wanted to marry my wife, that was what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And so, you get all different opportunities to reaffirm that throughout your life where you're like, oh shit, this isn't working. I've got to try harder or figure out how to crack this code to push further. And you either push further or you quit. So, but back in Philadelphia, I don't know. I mean, I've told this story a lot. So I was at a summer camp and my parents were teaching there, and I realized now it was the teenagers, like the 14 and 15-year-old. They had a drama program. And I just wanted to hang out there all day. I watched them making costumes and practicing the songs and, you know, running their lines and doing the scenes. And I was like, this is what I do. Let me be in this play. Let me be a part of this play. And they wouldn't let me. The second term, they let me do like one line at the very end of the play when it was too late to mess anything up.
Yeah.
And I came out, I said the line, and we all did the final dance review. And then we like took the bow. And when I was up there, I was like, this is where I exist. This is what I do. And so then I just kept trying to figure out how to get from point A to point B.
Yeah.
And my parents didn't know how to do anything. My godfather's brother worked in radio in Philadelphia. He asked around and found an on-camera training school in Philadelphia that was run by the husband of a talent manager that represented a lot of kids that, you know, commuted to New York and worked and stuff. And I did that class for about 6 months. We didn't have the money for it, so my mom, who's an artist, painted a mural on the wall of the studio in exchange for my sister and I to take classes there. And then I got to audition for the manager, and it was like a 4-hour wait in a big convention center, and you got to watch everybody else's audition. There's like, the manager's here, and then hundreds of kids just waiting. And I watched all these kids just blow it.
Well, kids are terrible.
Well, you know, and I knew in that moment, I didn't feel pressure like, oh gosh, I've got to do this. I was like, oh, I've just got to show them what I do, and then they'll send me on auditions.
Right, and then they'll know.
Yeah,
they'll know what I already know.
I've just got to show them. Right? Yeah. So, you know, the arrogance you have when you're 6.
Oh, of course.
And so I did. I got up there, and I did my little song.
Yeah.
And then I said some intro, and then she was like, come here. And I came and sat down, and she was like, what was that? And I go, that was the song that I practiced and the monologue that I prepared for you. And she was like, okay. And she looked at my mom, and she was like, would you take him to New York for auditions? And she was like, sure.
Awesome.
Right. And my mom, as we're walking out of that place, and then she even said, all right, you're hired, like that.
Oh.
And I shook her hand. I go, good.
Yeah.
Right, great.
Yeah.
And so then we were leaving, and I was like, did it. And my mom was like, come on. Come on. And so the next day, we got a call for the following day to be in New York for, it was an RCA, like industrial for John Denver's record.
Yeah.
And I went to the audition. My mom was like, holy shit, I guess we got to buy tickets on the train and go to New York and get to this audition. And I got to the audition and just like taking in all the stuff. And I was like, okay, cool. And they brought me in to meet the dude. I did the thing. And they were like, all right, now you're a little boy with your grandfather and you're listening to his stories and you're really interested. So you want to ask him questions about the stories. And I was like, okay. And I sit there with the guy, and the guy's like, there was a one time when we were driving on the bus. And I go, was it a big bus, Grandpa? Whatever. You know what I mean? So they were like, great, okay, great. Then I left, we went home. My mom's tucking me in. She was like, you know, I don't know what the fuck. And I got that fucking job. Got that job. And then we made that commercial. First time on set, really just like, okay, this all makes sense.
Yeah.
It's the weird, I don't know how to explain it, except that I have, all of that feels more natural to me than anything else in my life.
Of course.
The whole process of performing and making content like this, that's really what I know best.
And how. Now, according to IMDb, which as we know is an infallible source.
Sure, yeah.
I'm quoting here. He caught the acting bug, which by the way is, my girlfriend and I, we have decided that is our least favorite way of describing someone who's interested in acting.
Think about the acting bug in league with midichlorians. It's a really shitty way to describe how well you can use the force.
Yes. There's no parallel to that in any other form of even entertainment. He caught the writing bug. He caught the directing bug. No one ever says that.
Well, it's because the world set out to minimize the value of performers.
And boy, have they succeeded.
It's okay.
Caught the acting bug after appearing in The Sound of Music on a cruise ship.
No.
Did not think so.
Never happened. I abhor cruise ships.
Yeah, they're the
for
worst.
For me personally, it's like a floating prison. Like
I have to call the IMDb people, let them know.
And I've never performed in The Sound of Music.
No?
No, although I do know a bunch of the songs.
You didn't play the Jewish kid in the Von Trapp family?
No, although that would have been the part that I wanted to play. Ladies and gentlemen, the Von Trapp family! Ladies and gentlemen, the family Von Trapp. They've gone.
All right, so you do the RCA. You're steadily working as a young boy.
I booked like the first 3 auditions that I went on, which are all commercials.
Yeah. And then you get the call to be in a Woody Allen movie.
So I was already 12 by the time I did that, and I'd already done like 5 movies by then.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true. But I haven't seen those.
Well, no, but so the Woody Allen thing was also like a very strange circumstance.
Yeah.
I came into audition, and I met with the casting. I want to say it was Juliet Taylor. That sounds like what it was, right?
I think that's right. I think she cast
20 plus years ago. So, but I come in and I think I was 11 or 10 or 11 at the time that I first read for them, and got to meet him, and it was just like a chat, like a real informal. I barely remember any of it, but he like shook my hand and I split and didn't hear a word. And then a year later, we're in another building on some other audition, run into Juliet or her assistant, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, you guys, you know Seth got that movie." And we were like, "What are you talking about?" And you go, "The whole project got canceled. He did Hannah and Her Sisters instead." And we were like, "Oh." And she goes, "It's a shame. It's a shame. You were great." And I was like, "Oh, cool, I guess." And so then another 7 or 8 months later, we get a call to come to New York and have a follow-up to like meet with Woody again.
Yeah.
And so I come in and I meet, shake his hand and stuff, and he's just sort of standing there checking me out. And then turns to the cast room and goes, "All right, flush him." Like that. And I was just like, what does that even mean? And they called later to say, he's doing a new movie. He just wanted to make sure you didn't grow. Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Nailed it.
Nailed it. So then we, 18 weeks shooting that movie.
Wow.
Over 100 minutes of film that no one will ever see.
Oh my God!
I know.
It's the Inglourious Bastards of Woody Allen movies.
Maybe. I don't know. The movie that they whittled it down to is so beautiful and such like an enduring love letter to that time.
Yeah.
I don't know how any of the other footage would have added to it. It was just cool scenes. And for me as a performer to get to be in those scenes, get to work with him like that. Even at 12, I knew it was significant. I'd seen Bananas and Sleeper and really wanted to like revere him, and he just wouldn't have any of that. Like he just went out of his way to make it super normal. And if I was like, "You're awesome," he was like, something like don't act like a stage kid. You know what I mean?
And he barely gives direction, right?
He no, not a ton of direction. It just really wants it to be natural. Just really wants it to. But he gave me a little bit of call and repeat shit that I failed on. It's one of those moments that I've always wished I was better. We're supposed to be doing this gag where I've got a machine that allows you to project your voice onto the radio, and I'm trying to scare my cousin. And so he's just whispering in my ear like, "You fat fishy face." And I try to say, "You fat fishy face," and I just laughed. Everything that he whispered in my ear was so ridiculous that I bungled it up.
Aww.
And so by the time I got to Austin Powers, I was like, I'm not gonna fuck any of this. There's no way I'm gonna be the one that breaks. There's no way I'm gonna be the one that breaks. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, when I
you do that, you improv all the time.
I do. The first time I got screwed like that, like the 12-year-old version of you, was when I was working on Freaks and Geeks, and Sam McMurray, who was playing my dad, started throwing out not on the page lines at me for like off camera, like his off camera.
That motherfucker.
He was really messing with me. But that's one for me where like I cracked, and then the director was like, "What's going on?" And then like a dope, and I was 17. I certainly didn't have any excuses. I was like, "He's giving me stuff," and then Sam was like, "Oh, well, if you're gonna point fingers out, the gag's over, pal. Now he can't goof off because now they're gonna yell at me for messing up the kid." I always wondered about the one scene in Radio Days with you and Michael Tucker and Kenneth Mars.
Oh, where they kicked the shit out of me?
Where they beat the shit out of you.
Yeah, they literally just beat the shit out of me.
I mean,
there was an amazing. I assume it was like I don't know. There's definitely some negligence in that whole scenario. Like looking back at it, I look at my mom and I look at everybody involved in that. I'm like, something went really wrong there. But that one wasn't even a bad one. Everyone was so awesome to me. Like in hindsight, looking at the way the adults kind of take care of a kid, it was awesome. They were some of the most amazing adults. But here's what went wrong. Ken Mars had prop glasses. So his depth perception was really, really foul.
Oh no.
And so he would think that I was like 6 feet away and I was like directly next to him. And so he would just shove me and like put his hand like through my body. Yeah, it was very funny. And we did about 6 takes of that whole escalation.
Yeah.
Before I finally just like started crying. Because I just didn't, you
course.
get like into an emotional state. You just
Yeah.
can't help it. And then Michael, he's so good, just like picked me up. And he was like, it's all just fake. It's all just fake.
Yeah. Oh, good.
So sweet.
That makes me happy to hear.
Yeah, they were great.
Okay, good. Well, I don't want to stray too far from what you brought up. Let's talk about Austin Powers, man.
Okay.
We'll jump around.
Sure.
So and speaking of the improvisation on Austin Powers, the shh scene.
Yeah, that's all Mike.
All Mike.
I just played along.
on the day.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You just all I wanted to do was be there for him. Like whatever he had to run with, I wanted to be able to like empower it and take it as far as it would go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Well, because I love him. I was such a fan of his before I got to do that movie. And I was also in a real, I was doing a play when I got to make that movie. It was one of the only plays I've ever done. And it was American Buffalo.
Oh, wow.
And so it was real drama. And I was working with Dan Florek and Jonathan McMurtry, who had both done tons of theater. And they just wanted to kick my ass around this stage. And I wanted it. I really wanted it.
Yeah.
So we were getting deep into character, and I felt more like an actor than I've ever felt. And so when I auditioned for Austin Powers, I guess everybody else had been doing like a really big affectation or some kind of thing, and I played it like a really damaged, like a fucked up kid.
Yeah.
And that's what they liked. They liked that it was, because Jay Roach loves sincerity. He loves reality.
Yeah.
That's just a little bit arch because then it's funny. And so I played it like a kid who grew up without a dad, who didn't know anything about his dad except everyone's told him what a fucking bad guy his dad is.
Yeah.
What a criminal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you know that's confusing as a boy. And then all of this situation that he's thrust into, everyone's like, no, this is normal. And he's like, I don't feel normal. And then his dad comes back and is like, no, man, I want to be your friend now. And he's like, I don't even know you, man. And so that's where I was coming from. And the more genuine I played it, the more ridiculous Mike became.
Yeah.
And so that was like whatever he gave me, I just hit him with the other thing.
That's so great.
It was really fun.
I know that you've talked about this elsewhere, but I didn't know this until I was doing the research about how you wound up at Austin Powers, and I know you know where I'm going with this, that you were offered 2 projects at the same time, Austin Powers and chairman of the board.
Yeah, Carrot Top's movie.
Carrot Top's movie.
Yeah.
And
Well, but you have to understand.
And I know exactly.
Both of the scripts were equally risky. Like,
Yeah.
You always imply the best execution potential when you read something, but there's also, you just don't know.
Of course not.
If any of this is going to work. And So I Married an Axe Murderer had just come out, and it didn't perform the way that they wanted it to, even though it was really funny. And this was a big swing for Mike. They had worked to get it financed. It was a struggle to get it financed.
Yeah.
That was how he was able to retain the rights to the character.
Yeah.
They were making it on like a relative shoestring budget and trying to make it look like a huge movie. I think it was Jay. Was it Jay's first feature?
God,
It was early on.
It was early.
Yeah, because it was before he did that thing with Russell in Canada, the hockey movie. Anyway. So they're both equal risks.
Yes.
And they were both equally funny potential.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I took Austin
And
Powers.
you took Austin Powers.
You just never know, man. You just never know.
This
We
is-
just had Scott on Robot too. He's awesome.
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
I met him forever and ever ago, and always a nice dude. And swings hard, dude. And talk about a guy that takes it.
Oh,
like,
man.
takes it. Whatever anybody's gonna give him, he
Yeah.
takes it. And he's like, this is what I do.
Do you remember that show,
Fucking deal
Tough
with it.
Crowd with Colin Quinn?
Yeah, of course.
They had him on, and they spent the first 2 segments, him and the other comics, just tearing him to shreds.
Really?
And he took it so well,
Yeah.
and then they were like, we want to give you a challenge. And we're like, we wrote a monologue. Our writers wrote a really great jokey monologue. It's 2 minutes. We want you to do it, no props. And he was like, fuck it, I'm up for the challenge, let's do it. And he got up there, and he crushed that thing.
Yeah. He
Because
knows
he's
crowds.
really funny.
Yeah, because he's a skilled comic.
And
yeah.
I felt like he doesn't get any credit. Like he's
Nobody gives him props. Well, we
when
did
you want the good stuff.
We did the dumbest sketch.
want the
Sometimes
good stuff.
the fun of doing something like Robot is you get to kind of almost do whatever you want. You can
Yeah.
almost do whatever you want. And we ask a lot of people to just come in and we're like, what do you want to do? Do you want to do something silly? Yeah. And so one of our writers wrote this gag about, it's an assembly and they're trying to teach kids about eating vegetables and they're trying to teach kids about a better diet. And it's so bad. Carrot Top comes out and starts rapping.
Oh, God.
And Cubby Broccoli, the producer of James Bond, starts rapping about all the vegetables that James Bond eats. Connery Sean likes buttery corn. George Lazenby is a big fan of peas, like that. It's so silly. And then we're like, now you know what James Bond eats now. Here's Carrot Top with some props from the streets. And they just kind of came and did it. I was like, I love you for doing that.
Well, okay. I was going to save the robot chicken stuff till later, but we keep coming back to it, and I don't want to. I don't want to put it till the end because I want to spend some real time talking about it.
Okay, and the clock is ticking. So.
And the clock is ticking. You have this is not a joke. Seth is so busy. If I don't get him out of here by a certain time, I go to jail. He has the full power.
He will collect the 200, though. We're very good about the taxes.
The full power of the police department behind
What
him.
if I did? That's what I want. I want the LAPD badge and Lucite.
Yeah.
Like Lookwell. That's what I want.
Ladies and gentlemen, a Lookwell reference.
The world's only Lookwell reference.
For those of you who don't know, Lookwell was a
Conan-produced pilot.
With Adam West playing this old detective who was not really a detective. He just thought he was. He was like retired.
He played a detective on TV in a long line of detectives whose names started with Bana, like Banachek and Banafleck, and it was hilarious. But it was pre-Family Guy.
Oh yeah.
And so it was before McFarlane had really cemented this persona of Adam West as this wild, crazy mayor. Yeah. And so he was an old actor who still had an honorary LAPD badge and like really wanted to solve crimes. And so it was a single camera comedy before people were really pushing that. So many things about that shit ahead of its time.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it in far too long, clearly, but I do know anyone who's interested, it is available online.
Everything about it has been done since and improved upon. It's like looking at the Mona Lisa where you're like, I don't understand what the fuss is about. You know what I mean? But it was one of the first things of its kind that sort of pushed this thing, yeah.
Well, I think we should redo Lookwell. I'm just putting that out there.
You know what he's really good at? Making analogies to make things make sense. That's like the third one that you did with the Mona Lisa that I was like, oh, now that puts it in perspective.
I like context.
This is like your superpower. That you could create like
Well, my parents
analogies.
are teachers.
There it is. Oh, and for those curious, Zoo Radio was Jay Roach's first feature, but Austin was certainly his big one.
I like him. Have you met him or worked with him?
No, I have not. I don't think. Oh, wait. No, I did meet with him once, but I didn't work with him.
He's awesome. He really gives a shit, and he loves actors, and he loves story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I think years ago I used to confuse him with Jay Levy, who directed UHF, just because they have the same first name.
First name, yeah.
That was all. And so there was probably a good two months where I was like, oh no, the guy who directed Austin Powers also directed UHF. Did not.
Not a stretch though.
All right.
Do you want to just acknowledge that for a second? Like, how profound and influential UHF was?
Fucking
I don't know about you, but when I saw that movie, my jaw was like, oh shit. Because I already loved Weird Al.
Oh yeah.
But when I saw that you could make a movie like that, it just changed my world.
As it did with me. Yeah. And we have had Al on this show.
Yeah.
And it was one of the greatest moments of my life because I was the one who booked him. And I got to retell him the story of when I first met him. It was at the Bad Hair Day tour. He played the Beacon Theater in New York. And I stood in line for 90 minutes waiting by the stage door afterward. And I didn't have anything for him to sign. Like, I didn't even think. I was like, oh, he's doing autographs. I don't have, whatever. And I got up to him and he's like, hey, do you have anything for me to sign? And I was like, no, I just wanted to tell you UHF was like life-changing for me. And it's why I want to act and do comedy and just thanks.
Yeah.
That was it. That's all I wanted to do. Just say thanks.
Did he remember that?
As a matter of fact, he did. Because he's the fucking
greatest.
greatest.
He's that type of dude, yeah.
He is that type of dude.
Yeah.
I fucking love him. I'm sure you and I.
We could spaz out over how awesome Al is.
Yeah, we'll call Chris Hardwick. He'll join us. We'll all talk about how amazing Al is. I wanna include the audience, and so I wanted to. I know we started talking about Robot
jump
chicken.
around.
We're gonna jump around.
No format.
But let's see what we got here. Thanks to you, all of the tweets that were coming in that were questions for you are now coming in about
our picture, about the Berenstain Bears.
Okay, all right.
Is anybody watching this? We even like talk about that theory because we're like the counterpoint for it.
We really are
we're
counterpoint on that.
Because I distinctly remember an E, and then it makes me feel like my memory is that fallible.
Yeah.
Or B, there's a total schism of consciousness where several people.
Yeah.
When I say several, not like 20, like several hundred people, thousands of people.
Thousands.
Are like, that's weird. And so it either represents something biologically interesting, you know what I mean, from like a human intake and perception POV, where just by association or similar intake at that time point, you start really recognizing a separate reality,
Sure.
like denial, and you know that's true. Like you can look at all kinds of images and not see the color or not see the shape or whatever,
right.
because the way that it's moving. But I don't know, that like blew my mind a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad to actually meet somebody in person who's like, no, I'm certain, the same way that I was certain.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, guys. How's the room feeling? This Berenstain Bears, Berenstain Bears. How do you remember it?
What do you remember? Do you remember? You remember with an E, and then who said?
J-Max says
What the
Berenstain.
fuck?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Jamal?
I was a huge fan, and I think I always said Berenstain.
Yeah.
E or A?
I'm thinking, I feel like I read it with
Go
an
with your-
A, but
go
I
with your gut.
mispronounced it with an E.
Oh.
I
You're
don't know.
you're doubting yourself. She's already trying to ripple it. You see her? She's like, I'm in between the vibrations. I don't believe Neo. I'm gonna eat this cookie.
It's so the theory, for those of you who have no idea what we're talking about, is that everyone remembers it as Berenstain Bears, when in fact it was Berenstain Bears, and people think that there's an alternate universe that we're living in.
There's, if you really want to get into like the paranoid theories that are beyond just basic human fallibility, then there's two posits. One, that someone has gone back in time.
Probably Kenny, because I know Kenny definitely has a time machine.
Yep.
That's where he gets all
Maybe.
his junk.
Yep.
They're gonna look pretty soon. Your time machine will be like the Apple Watch. We'll all be in separate parallel timelines.
Great.
Don't even worry about it. But that's the idea, is that there's that someone went back in time, shifted all of the mythology.
Yep.
And then the other thing is that at some point, we all became immersed in some kind of fully tactile virtual reality, like the Google Deep Sleep. And then somebody just didn't type that data correct, so you got a different upload algorithm than I did.
Right.
And my implied historical document says E, while yours says A.
Yep.
Which is more likely? More likely that we all just, because of Frankenstein or Einstein, created a similarity of, like, how deep do you want to get science-wise here?
Oh boy.
Did I already blow it? Are we too far?
No, you've taken it.
You want to talk about my heart out?
We did. I'm worried about your heart out. Okay, wait.
We've got like an hour and a half.
Oh, do we really?
Isn't it noon?
Oh yeah, you said 1. Oh my
like
God.
1.
Oh,
like 1
sweet.
o'clock.
Oh,
1 o'clock at least. Let's just
nice,
go
man.
For it, dude.
I was thinking that. Oh boy, I'm excited. Okay, here we go.
Yeah, lean in.
So
settle in, guys. This is gonna get crazy.
So we're talking more Robot Chick.
Yes, that's probably better than the Berenstain Bears.
Well, they're
Or
both
the
animated.
Berenstain Bears.
I think you could still call it Berenstain Bears. Do you know the word forte?
Forte?
Yes, the word forte.
Yeah, Will Forte.
Will Forte.
Yeah.
The Will Forte. The word forte, if you put the accent mark over the E and say forte, that is strictly a musical term meaning loud. If you're talking about a person's strong suit, it's actually pronounced fort. And I have known that my whole life. And when I was an asshole teenager, because my father had taught me that, and I looked it up, I was like, oh, he's right. And I would be in class or something, and I would say, well, it's not exactly my fort. My teacher would go, I think you mean forte. I had to give up that fight.
Yeah, me too.
You know.
My 7th or 800th time to the principal, I had to just realize that there's no value in correcting your teachers.
Nope.
There's only value in graduating high school.
Yes.
There's literally, the second I had that revelation where it was like, because I had spent so long picking fights and just like rebelling and telling the teachers where they were fucking stupid, and then that just doesn't get you anywhere. And when I really knuckled down and got good grades on my tests and did all my reports and did all my homework, I graduated. And then I have never had to think about high school again.
Amazing.
Amazing, right? I try to tell kids in the moment where they're like most weirded and confused, because now I meet a lot of teenagers, and I don't know about you, man, but I was a very awkward teenager.
I remain an awkward teenager in an adult-sized body. Yeah, but teenage-sized
Adult-sized body? Yeah.
A teenage-sized body.
You can't fool me, man.
Nope. No, I cannot.
We're both stretching for clearance at the amusement park.
You're the first person I ever met and like I know where I'm like, you and I could legitimately pull like a quick costume change if we were trying to avoid the cops. Like if I was walking around a crowd and I'd be like, that guy. Let's do it.
I'm the guard that you knock out.
Yes.
So you can spot the costume.
You're the guard I knock out to
so
escape
funny.
prison.
Yeah.
That's it. But with my long-winded point is
About the Forte.
About the Forte.
Yeah.
I guess I've always known it was Berenstain Bears, and when people said Berenstein, I was like, I'm not going to bother.
But you also had a specific correction.
I did. My Nana corrected me.
Yeah.
I used to say Berenstein when I was really little, and one time I told her I wanted that book. She was like, the Berenstein Bears. She was like, honey, it's Berenstain Bears. There's an A there. That's how that's pronounced. I was like, oh, okay.
Which is
And then that was
nearly cataclysmic for me, because I remember having a similar conversation about Berenstein versus Berenstein.
There's going to be...
It's just your brain. I mean,
Kenny,
your brain is
please
fragile.
get in your
There's only-
time machine and figure this out for us. Thank you.
I don't know. It's far more likely that a collected group of American citizens, humans, have a certain amount of fallibility in their intake and have recalled something without, heavy investigation. It's like nobody spent time fortifying that. It's just something that we sort of recall,
Yeah.
So your recall is fallible. That's my assumption.
No, not in my courtroom.
Okay. No, you think it's a matrix ripple?
I do. No,
I know this is all zeros and ones, but the steak just tastes so good,
Wow, that's a Joe Pantoliano.
You don't hear a lot.
You don't hear a lot of that.
Were you like
trading card?
You have a Joey Pants trading card?
You?
Well, my friend and I are making character actor trading cards, and the prototype was Joey Pants.
I just fell in love with you.
This is the first one I have. Do you want to see
Were
it?
you like me, dude? Because I studied all the character actors.
Oh, fuck yes.
I knew I was never going to be like Tom Cruise.
In a major way.
so
Thank you.
Prototype.
Thank you, Jamal Fox. Oh my God. Who's doing this with you? Is it Corey?
Who do you take one guess.
This is incredible.
It's
That's incredible.
It's like everybody from Stanley Tucci.
There's like 30 of them so far. Cole's making them.
Of course he is. God bless him.
He's the best. Him in Midnight Run. That's one of my favorites.
But
These are
I think it's great. You can
I love
put
it.
there.
Amazing.
I'll collect those.
Yeah.
at the
Can we?
end.
Yeah. I want to get a close up of the. Perfect. This is great. Oh my God.
Can you tell I'm done?
I think my favorite
I can
so
tell.
far-
Done a lot of TV.
Oh, I feel like. Wait, have you
And
worked
P.S.
with
when
small?
when I was looking at the back, when I was looking at the back of the card, I tried to get it for your camera. I tried to give you.
Oh, what a
Sorry,
damn
guys.
professional.
Sorry.
I love it. Oh God, I love it. Okay, so 2005
Yeah.
was the first year of Robot.
That was
right?
the year we premiered.
That was the year you guys premiered.
Yeah.
So how did it all happen? If I may ask a James Lipton question.
Yeah.
How did it happen?
It's where it really came from was I wanted to make something.
Yeah.
And pre the internet, my buddies and I shot on our video camera and like did in-camera edits and got like basic video toaster effects to make titles and things. We made a bunch of really stupid shorts.
Yeah.
And we just practiced like shooting our own stuff. And I've always had cameras and always like shot documentaries or tried to make mini scenes. That's just always been something that I like to do. And pre having a cell phone, like a full edit suite in your back pocket,
Yeah.
it took a lot more effort. And so I'd become friends with Matt Senreich, who was the editorial director of Wizard Publications, which had multiple titles, but they covered everything pop, everything geek, all the genre stuff before that really became vogue, when nerdy movies or nerd-based movies were not making $1 billion. And I reached out to him because they photograph toys a lot. I said, you know anything about stop motion? I kind of want to just spend my own money and make something. I just want to make like a minute of stop motion Conan O'Brien had a toy that Hasbro had made for him, and I had the Austin Powers figure. I was like, wouldn't it be funny if like me and Conan were like, and I thought I'd bring it on Conan instead of doing an interview. Like I'd seen Dana do that.
Right.
And I thought, oh man, that's smart. That's really smart. Bring a short film instead of like, well, Conan, blah, 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 myself, blah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so Matt and I set out figuring out how to do that. And we were going to finance it ourselves with second-year students at an art college in New York. And weirdly got approached by Sony, which was trying to get into the digital content space. They wanted to create a linear content portal pre-broadband. So on dial-up, they were like, we've got this revolutionary concept where people will go to the internet to watch TV. And everyone was like, that'll never work. But they funded content development. And so we made about 45 minutes of content. We made like 12 3 to 4 minute shorts, which were all sketch-based, using toys as the stars. And because it was the internet, we could do anything we want. Most of that stuff can't air because none of our parody is intact, and it's all incredibly illegal content. Some of it's on our first season DVD. Ooh. And so that was it. We basically stumbled our way into stop motion content production and created what would be a proof of concept for Robot Chicken. And so Matt and I then spent 4 years, after that whole venture failed, I made a deal with Sony Digital's legal team to take it out. And we tried everywhere from SNL to Cartoon Network. But in the 4 years that we were shoring up an idea and taking it out to places, the Adult Swim started to form as a original content production destination.
Yeah.
And so they had Mike Lazo bought the seasons of Family Guy, the canceled show Family Guy, for second run on Adult Swim. And McFarlane called me and said, hey man, you remember that little stop motion thing you were screwing around with? Because he did voices for me in the original one. He said, you should meet these guys at Adult Swim. They might be a good vendor for it.
Yeah.
And so Matt and I met with Mike Lazo and Keith Crawford, and they bought our show. And before we knew it, we had to figure out how the fuck to make 20 episodes of this show. Wow. And what it was.
Yeah.
What a show is. And I was still trying to make movies at that point. Like I really thought that I could do both of them. So I did.
And I believe was that in the time where Family Guy was down?
Yeah. Yeah. Family Guy didn't come back on the air until almost like 7 or 8.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, lucky for you.
Yo, man, that's the greatest proof to me that we're living in some kind of alternate universe, that there was some kind of schism, because McFarlane was supposed to be on that plane.
Oh, I know.
He had tickets to the Boston flight that crashed in the towers. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. There were hours where we didn't know if he was alive or not.
Yeah.
And then I finally talked to him. He was in the bar at the airport, and he was like, well, I'm alive, I guess. Crazy, right? And then the show goes on to become like one of the largest successes of all time. He goes on to become one of the highest paid writers of all time. Like, it's weird. That's crazy. I have never looked at Gift Horse in the Mouth.
Yeah.
I have always looked at that as like, I love that show. I love that script. I really wanted to be on that show. I couldn't believe I got that job. And when we got canceled, we were like, well, crazy stuff like this never lasts. Right. And then to see the fan response and then to get to make it for 14 years, like that's insane.
It's crazy.
It's insane. So I'm like all gratitude on that.
Happy to hear it. Kill for that job. I would kill for any. I can't get regular VO work. They say it's because I'm too ugly. I don't know.
That's funny. VO's tricky, and so much of it is man, and you know, this whole business is familiarity. Like everybody complains about degrees of nepotism, but it becomes like who you can trust in that moment to do the thing at the time that you need it for what you have, and people will sometimes just grab the person closest to them, even if they're not the most qualified for it.
We've had Phil Lamar and Billy West and John DiMaggio on the show, and you know, and I've always maintained in the VO world, there's about 50 or 60 people who do 90% of the work.
Well, but there's also this,
and I'm fine with that because they're, as you were saying, they're the go-to. You know exactly what you're going to get, and
yeah, but it's also strange because I was at the Emmys 2 years ago, and Dan Castellaneta won, and I remember shrugging my shoulders like, of course he won. And then the announcer goes, "This is the second nomination and first win for Dan Castellaneta." And I was like, what? They've been doing that show for 25 years, and it's
Yeah.
pretty inarguable that he's talented. And then I had this realization this year, because Tress MacNeille got nominated for the first time. Can you even, I can't even like,
Wow.
I can't even handle that.
No.
They were like, this is the first nominated, and I was just like, that's injustice on a crazy level. But it lets you know kind of how skewed that whole process can be. And
Sure, but
I don't know. We talk about it. Like we've been invited to that party the last 9 years, which is crazy.
yeah.
And so we won one
I
time,
was gonna say
which is crazier.
that's Emmy award-winning Robot Chicken.
I know, that's very funny. And it's very funny what it does for all the writers and anybody that comes out of it. Gives you just a different credibility. So we're really grateful for the fact that we won it. But more than anything, I've watched all the other contestants in that category change every year. And so the fact that they've consistently invited us back to that party is really flattering. And we like it. We love to be considered part of that peer group, whether we win or not.
Deservedly so.
You're sweet. But you know what I mean.
I
know what I
do.
mean? Because there's people that deserve it that don't get it.
Sure.
And you never know like why it is you're getting invited. So we look at that like business prom. We all get together once a year, put on your clothes and go to the fancy party. And if you win a superlative, that's cool. But if you don't, you can still eat from the chocolate fountain and have a nice dance with your girl.
And that's what it's really all
It
about.
really is. You just kind of look around. You kind of can't believe you get to high five with all these other people that are making shows. I don't know.
Oh,
None of it matters. None of it matters in the end, you know.
well, it matters. Well, like you said, it matters to the writers. It matters to the morale.
Well, and it
sometimes.
matters to be able to get other work, absolutely.
Yeah.
What I mean is, the way that you're remembered and the things that you're remembered for are never the awards or the accolades.
That's
it's really
true.
like how you lived or what you gave people.
Absolutely. I could not agree with you more. A bunch of the people in the audience who I want to include,
Let's hear it.
now that we are talking about Robot Chicken, want to know about the Star Wars.
Robot
specials.
Chicken Star Wars?
Yeah.
What do they want to know?
They want to know everything, bro. They want to know what was the well, hang on. I've already lost it. I apologize to the Twitter fan who asked that question. You're buried now. I can't possibly find the guy. Oh, you have it? It was in my Twitter
Well, what about
thing.
about
He
the
just
Star
wanted to say,
Wars?
let's talk about the Robot Chicken Star Wars and how did that come to be?
There was one fan that asked a Star Wars question. His name from Facebook. His name was Esteban Segreria.
All right, we'll say it was from him.
Esteban.
Thank you, Esteban.
His name is Esteban.
Well, we had done 2 sketches on Robot Chicken. One was part of a spoilers sketch where we made a joke about, it was all the like big spoilers of movies. And one of them was the crying game. And then we had Luke and Vader, and that scene from Empire where Vader says, "I am your father." And we got Mark Hamill to do it, which was insane. And it was mostly because it was right before the prequels, and Mark was even like a little feisty about, we should have a whole sidebar about his amazing evolution, because that's it's so informative as an actor, like how to have grace over a multi-year career. Do you know what I mean? Especially when you're one of the largest stars on the planet for a second, and seemingly not given the kind of credit that typically comes with that station.
Yeah.
But so anyway, we did this sketch where Vader says, "I am your father," and Luke goes, "That's not true, that's impossible." And Vader says, "And Princess Leia is your sister." And Luke says, "That's not true, that's improbable." And then Vader says, and as a child, I built C-3PO. And Luke just goes, what? You know? And then and he says, "And the Empire will be defeated by Ewoks." And he's like, "That is very unlikely." And then they cut later, time wipe to them just like sipping tea and smoking cigarettes. And he goes, and the Force, well, that's just a microscopic bacteria in your bloodstream called midichlorians. And Luke goes, "Hey, you know what? If you're not going to take this seriously, I'm out." And so we did that and never heard from Star Wars and thought, oh gosh, we're really lucky. Our parody defense is very strong here.
Yeah.
And then we did a sketch in our second season where the Emperor gets a phone call from Darth Vader that the Death Star is blown up. That sketch, because it was right at the time when the internet was becoming a viral field, you know, that sketch got passed around in ways that we never could have anticipated. I'm good, thank you. And people who had no idea that Robot Chicken was a show saw that sketch, including George Lucas. Ooh. Yeah, so we got a phone call And Matt and I were in the office before we had an assistant, and the caller ID came up, Lucasfilm, and Matt and I both like almost shit ourselves. We were like,
It's either really good news or really bad news.
And so he answers the phone, Matt and Seth's office, like that. And it's a woman named Tracy Canobio. And we were like, this is a joke. Who's fucking with us? This is a joke. And she insists, no, she's the part of the publicity team for Lucasfilm, and they wanted to invite us to come take a tour of the facilities and meet with their teams and stuff. And we were like, oh, yeah, okay. You're not going to sue us, you mean? And so I went there and had a lunch with them, and this was at a time, that's about 2006. And so post the prequels, I guess, but at a time where they're trying to figure out what the brand is and how it's going to move to the future, and before their decision to make 7, 8, and 9.
Yeah.
And, you know, George, he just wanted to have fun. And so they wanted us to do something. They had a lot of fan films at that point, and they thought we would maybe do some kind of framework or some kind of interstitial.
Yeah.
And Senraj, the ballsiest person I've ever met, said, what about a half hour of Robot Chicken solely dedicated to Star Wars? And I like, and the three people were like, huh, that's interesting. And so we just started talking about that. In less than 3 months, we had a team together to write a script. And so then we just started getting really ballsy about it.
Yeah.
And we wrote a promo that featured George. Well, actually, it started with a sketch. It started with a sketch where the nerd goes to Celebration and runs into George Lucas in an elevator and winds up like fanboying out on him, and then gets him to the stage safely and saves the day. And we asked if George would do the voice, and everyone was like, no, absolutely not, absolutely not. And Lynn Hale, who, she's also in publicity in Lucasfilm, but she's like, it's hard to explain. She has superpowers. She has superpowers. She got him to agree to do it.
Oh my God.
And so once we got him to agree to do that, then I was like, hey man, we can do this other thing too. We have this really funny promo that I want. It's him on a therapist's couch, confessing to the therapist how he is totally blown it, let the guys from Robot Chicken make a half hour dedicated to Star Wars. It hasn't been this bad since the holiday special. And he agreed to do that too. So we were just like, oh my gosh, you're the coolest. And then we played, you know, we really playful in the record. You could tell he just had fun with it.
Yeah.
And so that's really how it happened. It went well, it worked for them, it worked for us. It wasn't dangerous, and they let us make 3 of them.
Yeah, and they are all brilliant.
You're sweet.
I mean, I'm not.
I love it. It's made by fans of the movies that are also comedians, and so it's not critical in the same way that it's just loving and ridiculously silly.
It's. I mean, I you know, we've talked about this. I am a serious fan of Robot and all the specials and everything, and I own all the DVDs, and I'm not going to sit here
I forgot. I left them in my car. I have all 3 of the Star Wars I brought.
Oh, motherfucker.
We'll walk up, we'll grab them out.
Okay, sweet. I already own them, so I want to, maybe we'll do a...
a giveaway?
I will do like a Twitter thing giveaway.
Okay.
We'll figure it out. Maybe about retweeting the link to your thing when it posts. How about
My
that?
thing?
This episode when it posts on Tuesday.
Okay.
But if you haven't got the DVDs, people, if you haven't watched this show, you're doing yourself a disservice. You really need to be watching Robot Chicken. You need to check out the Star Wars specials. They are nothing short of brilliant, especially if you know the movies. And even if you don't, fuck it. Watch it and then watch the movies, and then you're going to be like, my God, these are awesome, but ridiculous.
That's the worst thing that's happened. That's the whole Detours conversation, really, is that I started meeting parents who said that they were introducing their kids to Star Wars via Robot Chicken, which I think is culturally misinformative.
I agree.
Because you meet something in a comedic way with an ironic investigation behind all the sincerity, and it sort of denies you the opportunity to intake the sincerity. So when I was introduced to Darth Vader, he's a villain. And only through years of self-assessment and sort of creating my own ironic lens, could I appreciate the idea of him as a beleaguered middle manager.
Yeah.
But that's an evolution. If you meet this character that way, then when you see him being scary, you're like, oh, that guy's not funny at all. It's like watching Ricky Gervais play a bad guy all of a sudden. And so when we were talking about Detours, do you know about that?
No.
You know that show? We spent 4 years making 39 animated episodes of a cartoon for Star Wars. You sort of know about this,
I
right?
do know it. As soon as you say, yes, now I know exactly.
Well, so there's 39 finished episodes and a total of 62 scripts.
Yeah.
And it was this project that George wanted to make before selling the company, before hiring Kathy Kennedy, before deciding to make 7, 8, and 9. Mm-hmm. And it was just him wanting to kind of expand on this comedic Star Wars universe, and also recognizing that television is the frontier of entertainment as far as like communicable content, like straight to the viewer. And he wanted to own something, and so he manufactured this show. And the more that we talked about it, or at least the conversations I got to have with Kathy Kennedy, which was like a pinch myself kind of moment, because she's one of my heroes. And we talked about, once they decided to do 7, 8, and 9, she really wanted to put Detours on hold. And not because, well, at least by my understanding, not because she doesn't believe in the content, but because it's not a question of that content, it's a question of Star Wars as a brand over the next 30 years. And that was the axiom she used for me. She said, well, it's not really the next 3 years. Because 4 years ago, when we were talking about putting it on a network, she said, knowing that 7, 8, and 9 are going to come out, or especially episode 7, which is a reintroduction of Star Wars for new generations. The first time George won't be attached to it. It's J.J. Abrams. It's all these new characters. It's the next thing. She said, we have to really be conscious about how this gets introduced to kids and in what way. And the fact that Detours was something that George invented, it's the last television that George had that heavy a creative hand in, and so it's bound to be met with some kind of fanfare just because it's his own personal thing. And you don't want that to compete. You don't, what she said was, if kids spent the next 3 years watching Detours on XD, and it's these comedic interpretations of these iconic characters that they're about to be reintroduced to in episode 7. When episode 7 opens, Vader, who's on par with like Mussolini or Hitler or Stalin, has been destroyed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so if kids spend 3 years in advance of seeing episode 7 being introduced to Vader as this kind of bumbling, middle manager, I don't know, we all felt like that was kind of negligible. Like that's, because I think our show is great, and I think it's very funny, but I also appreciate how significantly important Star Wars is culturally, and what this movie will mean at this moment. So that was the conversation about delaying it.
Yeah.
Is just the way that people interpret it. And like I said, I'd had the experience of people coming to me and saying, I introduced my kid to Robot Chicken. It's like an 8-year-old. And he's like, I love Darth Vader. You know what I mean? It just made me, it really pushed me back as far as your responsibility in making things, how you teach people stuff, what you teach them when.
I gotta say, when I was walking around your production offices, there is no shortage of fart jokes being pitched in really every room.
Yeah, sure.
And that's as it should be.
Farts are funny.
The
It
funniest.
shouldn't be your only weapon.
No.
But it's definitely a quality arsenal.
Louis, Louis in his last special talked about farts. In fact, you were there. We were there.
Yeah,
we were at that show together.
At the forum.
At the forum, yeah. And he's like, what's not funny? It comes out of you, it smells bad, and it makes a noise. What's not funny about that?
He's pretty awesome. I like what he's done, how he's been able to turn his own thing into his own thing.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, certainly
It's a great lesson.
You don't know anything about that.
Well, you know what's funny about it? I've always been, like, I'm used to being on camera. I'm used to performing, learning all this other stuff, all the business stuff. That's been a very strange adjustment. And I feel myself butting against that all the time as a performer.
Right.
Like, I used to just, to be, it's the thing that we talk about being ready.
Yeah.
Just being ready. So I like to stay in shape. I like to stay sharp. I like to make sure my mental acuity is strong.
Mm-hmm.
Jay-Z has a thing, he said, I run track, try not to get lapped. So that's just
nice.
it. And as an actor, you need that.
Yeah.
As a manager, as a producer, all those other things, you don't get to do those things. So trying to do both of those gets very taxing. It's difficult.
I'm sure. I think it is time for a tweet 5,
Oh yeah,
which I threatened you with.
yeah.
I hope you guys are ready up there in the booth. Throw it up.
T5.
Can't see it.
T5.
Dave Keckner
T5 forever
doing a
now.
little intro to this.
Oh, he is?
Yeah.
I love Keckner.
He's the best. Amazing.
Like, you'd never know it from, but when you meet him, you're like, you're just a fucking great dude, aren't you? My buddy Mike Doherty is making this movie Krampus, and Keckner's in it, so I went to visit him on the set, and it was in New Zealand, so it's like miles and miles away. And when I saw Keckner there, he was like, what are you doing here, man? Get over here. He just makes you feel so good.
Oh, yeah. Such a warm guy.
Yeah.
All right, this one comes from...
That was something bad.
Oh, that's okay. This one comes from Rachel Aq, whose handle is at Ailima Kitty?
Yeah. It's AILIMA Kitty.
Alima? I don't care. Birds or griffins?
Birds or griffins? Is it BYRDS?
BYRDS.
You know, I made a show for Bochco in '94 called The Birds of Paradise.
That's right.
That's what he's talking about.
So birds, that family, or griffins?
I think the griffins have proved they're more enduring.
That is a bit of an easy one. A much tougher one, although directing or acting?
Acting.
Duh.
Yeah.
Robot, oh God, I'm sorry about this in advance. Robot Chicken or Family Guy?
Well, they're really not the same.
No, they're really
which
not.
Which is great, and that's the best thing. Like, Seth MacFarlane and I were both at Comic-Con in 2007, and we both were making Star Wars. He was making Star Wars Family Guy, and I was making Star Wars Robot Chicken. We were like backstage, like, couldn't believe that this is like, oh my God, what the fuck? There is no, we get to coexist symbiotically, and we actually go to great effort to make sure that we don't tell the same jokes.
Yes, that is the correct answer. Seth or Joss?
What does that mean, me?
No. I'm guessing MacFarlane or Whedon.
I don't
Remember,
understand.
this is this
As
or
a
that.
creator?
It's up to interpretation.
Everybody loves competitions.
It's up to interpretation.
I can't. Those two don't, they're completely separate categories. Like MacFarlane he's a genius on a level that is truly implied by the word and not the kind of colloquial acceptance of it. Like, MacFarlane is a really incredible, his skill set, like his knowledge base, and then his genuine au revoir talent. He's epic. And Joss Whedon is like a level of talent and brilliance rarely seen. You know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you're saying.
And I've been lucky enough to work with both of them at multiple points over more than 10 years. So I'm the fucking lucky one. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. Last question,
Am
Peter.
I like Eminem with the you know what I'm saying?
Peter or Dr. Evil?
As a dad? What is everybody's either? I should just be better at this.
Coke or
right?
Pepsi?
Coke or Pepsi.
North or South?
Right.
Atlantic, Pacific.
Okay.
It's just, and our fans like to make it tough. You know what? Don't even answer that. You know what? Alima, Kitty, try next time. This was.
I'm sorry.
I'm giving him 2 out of 2. Only 2 of
People
those were
usually
legit.
get mad at me because I don't have a lot of bad things to say about things.
No, it's fine, and that is. You have nothing bad to say about anything.
No, that's
and it's because and again, I've spent the last several days now. Oh my God, I've spent the last several days now doing research on you.
What did you get there?
I'll get to that in 1 second. And you are this rare breed of actor, producer, creator who's like, I never go into anything like thinking it's not going to be good. Like, everyone always hopes for the best, and sometimes it's great, and sometimes it's not as well received, but you never know. And I've never set out to make a bad thing, and I've never done anything for just the money. And like that's really admirable. And you never backtrack on that. You never you've never do. Well, it didn't work out, but whatever. We all got paid. That's never been your stance, and I'm really impressed with that.
Thanks, man. Well, that's that same thing that I had when I was a little kid. It's really not about being famous. It's that this is where I function the highest. This is where I feel the most like myself and at ease. And when it's really humming, that seems to be when it connects to the audience in the same way.
I have a very special surprise for you.
Oh shit.
No, it's okay. It's not that terrifying.
Okay.
I've just been informed that on the other side of the globe, in the Eastern Bloc,
Yes.
Kevin Pollock himself is watching this live feed.
Really? Is
I
that
don't even know what
possible?
time it is, but he is watching. It's 10 hours.
Do you remember when we started this and I was like, oh, we should talk about Kevin? And you were like, he's not even here.
That is not what I said. That is so not what I said, and you're throwing me under the bus in a nasty way. What did I really say?
You said, well, you know he's not here.
I said I wanted to make sure that you knew I was hosting.
Right.
And then you said, yes, I did. And I said, okay, great. And then you said, but still. And then I said, well, of course, we can talk about Kevin.
Yeah.
I said, in fact, I'm sure Kevin would love it if we talked about Kevin.
That is what you
It
said.
is Kevin Pollock's chat show.
That's true.
That is what I said.
Yeah.
For the record.
Well, because I saw Kevin do
You're going to get
stand-up.
me fired from this non-paying gig.
I saw Kevin do stand-up before I ever saw him do drama work. And so I loved him as a stand-up, as an impressionist, and he's so funny. And then I know he did work before Usual Suspects, but when he did Usual Suspects, I was already like deep into character actors.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, look at Kevin swinging for the fucking fences in this movie. And then that movie blew up into such a big thing, and I don't know, I was just happy for him.
As well,
If these cards ever become a thing, I will make sure that you get a set.
That I get? Oh, that I get a set. Yes, for sure. I want that.
Cards, if they
Who's
become a thing.
Joey Pants is #1 in the series?
Yes.
Okay.
That was the prototype.
I understand.
And he's
I
number
understand.
one.
I finally got to make a movie with him. We did this movie that I don't know if anybody saw called The Identical. That, you know, and this is one of those instances where you make the movie for all the right reasons, and then you're just sort of surprised by the way that it's received or not received, or you really learn a lot about the way that culture interprets things versus the way that you interpret things. I don't know. The movie, and you know, I can understand everybody's arguments against it. I just went into it with a completely different point of view. It's a really positive story about nature versus nurture, about like who you believe you are versus what everybody tells you are. So that's why I liked it. And Joey's in it. And we barely had any scenes together, but I got to hang out with him a lot in Nashville, and he did not disappoint. The first day I met him, he was in a denim vest with, it was a denim shirt with a leather vest with denim pants, a massive belt buckle, a bunch of, I guess it's like turquoise he had. And he just looked like a cowboy wizard. It was so cool. And I was like, oh man, is this your wardrobe? And he goes, oh no, these are my regular clothes. And I was like, my heart just grew for you, man. I can't even believe it. Oh, and then he said something that I wrote down, but I'll try and say it from memory. He asked me what I'd been working on, and I told him I was doing an animated sketch comedy show that starred action figures and blah, blah, blah. And then we went out like 3 nights later, and he said, so what else are you working on? I said, like I told you, I'm doing that animated sketch comedy show that stars action figures. Oh, I thought you were fucking with me. I had to write that down. I was like, anytime you think you're important, just ask one of your heroes if they know what you're doing. And usually the answer is no, and that gives you like a healthy dose of like ego balance.
Sure. Well, here's something that I know ties you and me and Kevin all together. Kevin, who I assume is still watching, and rest assured we are thinking about you nonstop.
He's a little upset that no one in the chat room is talking to him and that he doesn't have a character actor card. That's what
How can he not be #1 in the series?
There's only 30 of them. Well, he's getting one.
All right.
There's only 30 so
I'm
far.
sorry, Kev. If she'd asked me, I would have said you have to be #1 in the series. I mean, come on.
I didn't make the list.
Sam Weinberg. Come on. Entourage.
Yeah.
You and Kevin and me have all been on Entourage.
Yeah.
Only you played yourself. You son
Is that
of a
true?
bitch.
It was dumb too in hindsight. In hindsight, it was dumb.
Oh, come on.
Well, it really like handicapped me for a while in a way that I didn't understand was possible. Well, and it's exactly for that reason. Like I've spent my entire career cultivating like a pretty sincere nice guy image.
Yeah.
In that I'm just, I don't like assholes, so I don't want to be an asshole.
It's not an image, by the way. For those of you who don't know, Seth, he's one of the most decent, nice people I've
You're sweet.
ever
Well,
met.
this is why I thought that whole gag would be so funny, because I grew up watching Larry Sanders, and I saw David Duchovny like have a romance with Gary Shandling on that show, and I just thought this is genius dissection of all of these concepts. And so I had just done Italian Job with Mark Wahlberg, and he was getting that show put together, and I tried to get on that first season when they were just having like guest stars random, like Sarah Silverman, everybody just happens to be backstage, and Adrian runs into her, whatever. And it didn't work out timing-wise, and then Kevin Connolly and Kevin and I have known each other since we're 7. Kevin and I started in New York doing commercials together. Like, I've known him and we're in Rocky V. Like, I've known Kevin a long time. Right, so then, so Kevin gets this show, and I'm like, oh, hi, dude, you're starting in Mark's big show. And then we run into each other at some party, and I said, man, I talked to Mark about trying to do something on it. So would you still be interested in doing it? I'm like, yeah, man, I'll come anytime. If the timing, let's do it. So I went to do this one episode on the roof of the Standard. It's the episode where Malin Ackerman and Manuel Shrieky, he convinces them to have a threesome, I guess.
Yeah.
And it was just one gag where we're just supposed to run into each other. But we know each other, so we just started like fucking with each other and like playing like we really hated each other. I'm like, wouldn't it be funny if we just hated each other? Yeah. And then I started thinking of why I, as Seth Green, the actor, would hate Kevin Connolly,
right.
or hate E, Vince's manager.
Right.
Like, what possible? And so then Doug, because he liked the way that was going, Doug Allen goes, hey man, we had this idea in Vegas of like an actor who keeps seeing E and is like, yo, tell Sloan I said, what up? Would you want to like play a dick? And I was like, that actually sounds really funny. That sounds really funny. And then Kevin and I started talking about like what it could be. Mm-hmm. I came up with this whole backstory of why. And I thought it was hilarious. And then an entire generation of kids. Here's what I didn't realize. I started focusing on producing, so I wasn't doing as much on camera stuff. Yeah. And as a result, I'm not doing a lot of like interviews and things like that. And so there was this whole gap of like 4 years where I wasn't doing on camera stuff, where Entourage came out, and kids who were like 15 and 17 and 19 watched that show without any alternate information about me. And so I did 3 episodes of Entourage at increasing levels of asshole. Yeah. Because we just thought it was hilarious.
Of course.
The last episode, me and Bow Wow were throwing each other into tables. Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But people started becoming convinced that that was reality television because they don't, this young generation sees reality TV and it trips their brains. So I had casting associates in their 20s tell my manager that they did not want to see me because I was so fucking annoying.
Those people need to leave this business.
Well, my manager and I had to actually like sit and talk about where that came from, and then we realized that we just sort of traced the cultural intake. And I said, okay, well, I'm not gonna go out and be like, you guys, well, that's not me. Instead, I just started to do things, like really simple shit. Yeah. Interviews, Twitter. Right. Just be yourself, sort of push back against this. Yeah. And I still get people who are like, man, I think you're okay, but I still fucking hate you in Entourage. And I was like, thank you. Yeah. Because you don't come up to Kevin Spacey and be like, you killed Brad Pitt's wife. I hate you. You know what I mean? Of course. You don't.
Right. Right.
You don't do that.
Yeah, the only difference there is that technically you were Seth Green as himself.
That's the hard line.
And that's the hard. That's it for people.
Well, that's where it should be funny.
And I couldn't agree with you more. And that's baffling to me. I know J.K. Simmons for a minute years ago had a hard time with people being like, I'm not really a Nazi.
Right.
You know that, right?
It's amazing.
I'm an actor.
Well, but that's just the audience. You kind of can't help it. They notice you for something. Mm-hmm. You can only just be happy that they noticed you for that thing. Like, look at Cranston, man. Cranston's had so many different waves of his career. Yeah. And for Walter White to be this indelible, like, grave and, this dark, dramatic character, and then you see him on Malcolm, and he's so silly, so funny. People forget that he's that gifted a comedian. Oh, yeah. Because he's that gifted of an actor.
Absolutely. Hey, speaking of parody and gifted actors, now you and I met in mid-2000 through our friend Herbert Russell.
Oh, is that true?
That's when we met.
Is that true?
Yes, that is true. And it was under a year later that I ran into you again in the parking lot at Universal, because I was just about to start work on my first feature. And I was so excited that I ran into you of all people, because my very first feature was not another teen movie. Well, I was
Is that
playing.
true? Oh God, Sam, and you're so funny in that.
Oh, thanks, buddy.
You're so funny in that.
But this is really not about me. It's secretly about you because I played the wannabe, the white
wannabe
suburban
Asian
kid doing an Asian persona, which was, as I was so happy to point out to you, based pretty much entirely on Kenny from Can't Hardly Wait with the black persona.
Yeah.
And I was like, of all the people that I get to do a little spoofy parody thing of, this is so exciting for me. And you were so sweet about it. You were like, oh man, that's so awesome. I love that they're poking fun at it.
Yeah.
You're gonna crush, you're gonna be, and that
I was
gave
happy
me
to be
such,
included.
that gave me such a boost of confidence. And
Aw.
it really, so thank you for that.
Well, Sam, I
Again.
told you I love that movie, and it's funny because the Wayans guys had gotten into this habit of making a sort of generically titled thing, a parody of whatever was most popular, and Not Another Teen Movie was so different because it very faithfully parodied each one of these things. Instead of like a shotgun smattering of whatever was out there, it took all of what was culturally significant about all of these stories and sort of twisted them slightly, and I thought it was so effectively done. Wasn't that that was the one, and they did the Friday Night Lights bit, and so, like, just all of the ADR that's yelled out off camera in that movie is fucking genius. It was like, do it for Johnny's torso.
It was. We had one of the most talented loop groups.
The loop group.
On that movie, we really did.
There were moments in that where I knew I was the only one who heard that fucking joke. Where I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Thank you, man. But I honestly didn't bring that up to talk about me in that movie. I wanted to talk about Can't Hardly Wait.
You're sweet.
Which
Oh,
is like,
Can't Hardly Wait, sure.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
It's like one of the seminal 90s teen movies.
Isn't that funny? It's just time. It's time, because when we did that movie, we all came from having grown up on, everything from Breakfast Club to Uncle Buck or Adventures in Babysitting, all of those movies. And so there had just been a gap in movie making where people were focused on that kind of thing. And that it harkened a resurgence of interest in that. And you could even see the hesitance from the studio, because it was meant to be an R-rated movie. Right. And they sort of got cold feet at the last minute, thinking that teenagers wouldn't go to see an R-rated movie. Had to be PG-13. And then everyone after that, whether it was American Pie or was it She's All That?
She's All That
was PG-13.
PG-13, but that was
Anyway,
99.
it was that whole Scream and everything that came after. Yes.
It was I don't know. It was I know your buddy Brecken.
Yeah.
Brecken
was supposed to play that part. That part, Deb Kaplan wrote that part for Brecken, and then Brecken got Studio 54 with Ryan Phillippe. And before that movie became a clusterfuck of Miramax trying to chase Neve Campbell's cultural significance at the moment.
Right.
It was a very important role. It was a dramatic lead in a movie, all kinds of stereotype breaking things for the both of them. And so he took that, and I was like, yes.
Yeah, that was, I've had a few of those.
I wanted that part, man. I read that script, and it's funny because I knew everybody involved in it, but I never felt like I had a leg up in it. I genuinely, and you talk about as an actor where you know your opportunities are. I knew that if I could get that I would work my ass off in that role, and that I would make every moment a moment that someone would pay attention to.
Yeah.
So you can see I'm like young and hungry in that movie.
Oh, dude, you're so good in it, man. You're so good in
man.
it because, I mean, I'm sure you got this when the movie came out, was people would come up to you and go, I knew that guy.
Yeah.
Like, I knew that guy and I fucking hated that
But that's
guy.
my favorite thing to do in movies, is to take someone who should be awful and find the humanity in them. I like finding really troubled and damaged characters that no one would like, that people wouldn't like, and then finding something about them that makes them interesting or charming or just human. I love finding the why someone is the way they are, because it usually makes you more sympathetic.
Oh yeah, and that's why you travel the world and meet people. Even maybe going to New Zealand, not to visit Dave Koechner, but to film a little movie called Without a Paddle.
Yeah.
3 months in New Zealand, you, Dax Shepard, Matthew Lillard,
Falling desperately in love with each other.
madly in love with one another, because it's all...
Well, and it's Ethan Suplee and Abe Ben-Ruby.
Oh, amazing
and
cast.
It was like, well, start with me and Dax.
Yeah.
Actually, no, let's start with me and Lillard. Well,
Yeah.
no, Lillard came after. So I had made Italian Job with Donald DeLine for Paramount, and then after that movie tested well, Donald called me and said, I've been trying to develop this comedy, and this character was written as a big fat guy, but maybe it's a little short guy. And I was like, okay, let me read it. And it was a good script, and it seemed like there was a lot of funny opportunity in it. And I said, if this came together in the right way, it could be really cool. So I let him attach me to it, which was awesome. And then they went out to find these other guys. And I had met Dax at Groundlings, and then he fucking punked me. I was like the third punk that they did. And if you watch the punked, you can see he's got his back to me all the time. He's got a pillar in between us at all times. Like, I never saw him until they revealed it. And then I was like, you! And he was like, I had to keep my back to you, I knew. And so then he came in to read, and we got to read together. And I was like, holy shit. Because I've always thought he was talented, but when we read together, I'm like, oh, this guy's the real deal. This is obviously what he's supposed to be doing. And James Marsden was in it for the Lillard role. And Marsden, it was before anybody had really seen him be funny. And Jimmy's so funny.
He's great.
So funny and such a good actor. And my thought was they would never go with an unconventional type like Lillard, because Lillard is unconventional. He's handsome, but he's not prototypically handsome the way that Jimmy is. But I also knew, and I even said this, I said, if you put me and Dax and Lillard in a movie together, we're gonna be funny. We're gonna be funny. And so we all got to go do that shit. And it was us just falling desperately in love with each other, operating at the highest octane. Like, everybody was exercising and eating right. And
because you guys spent half the movie in your underwear.
Yes, so early on I knew, like, I quit smoking a month before the thing. I didn't smoke the whole time I was making the movie, just because we were running and jumping and swimming, and beyond the being naked, because sometimes it's funny to be out of shape. Sure. I knew the endurance of this movie was gonna be as big, if not bigger, of a challenge than Rat Race. And I knew how, like, physically beat I got making that movie, and how prepared I was, and yet still how much it bested me. Yeah. So I got ready. And again, it was one of those things where it's like, okay, this is a huge opportunity. Number one on the call sheet. Let me show everybody how to be awesome.
Non-industry people don't know what a boon that is, to finally be number one on a call sheet, especially when you've been at it for so long.
It isn't. It only matters so much.
It's a mental thing, mostly.
Sometimes, but it also is. It's a responsibility thing. It's a responsibility thing, because everyone will look to you for example.
Of course.
Yeah, you can set a good example, or you can set a shitty example.
Yes.
Yeah.
We've certainly seen both. Speaking of Rat Race, what's it like to work with Jerry Zucker?
So I'm sure you're like me, and you love things like Police Squad and Airplane and Top Secret.
Oh my God.
So, you know, so I grew up on Kentucky Fried Movie. Robot Chicken borrows extensively from Kentucky Fried Movie, and so just getting to audition for him was a thrill, because he's made a lot of the shit that was profoundly influential to me.
Big time.
And so I just wanted to show him that I was there on purpose.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I came as hard as I could on that, just fighting for every moment. And I got to read with Vince Viloff too. And as soon as we were in the room together, we were like, oh shit, well, wow, obviously we can make this work. Yeah. Yeah. So it was incredible. And that's one of those moments, because Brecken's in that movie too. Breck and I, there's a scene where we're running into the train station trying to find the lockers where the money's supposed to be. And there's a door that we're all squeezing through. Yeah. And me and Brecken and Amy Smart are at the door. And they're like putting the slate in and called rolling. And Breck and I are like shoulder to shoulder. We've known each other since we were 16 years old. And while they're calling the rolling and doing all that, I look at Brecken and we both look behind us, and it's Whoopi Goldberg and John Lovitz and, you know, Cuba and Kathy, and it was like everybody. Yeah. And we just looked at each other like, and action. You know what I mean?
Oh, I do.
That was that moment on that movie where Brecken and I, where I had this insane thing, and then I got to share it with my buddy, which was incredible.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's there are some really great moments in that movie. I feel like it doesn't get its fair shake.
People love it. It's one of, I get that a lot. Like, and I'm grateful to have been able to be a part of it. But people come up and they're like, oh, I watch that on TV all the time.
Yeah, there's some, and the stuff with you and Vince is very funny.
It's so silly. We were both just going for it as hard as we could. That's the trick. You gotta always.
does not know any other way. He does not have anything between 0 and 80. It's 80 to above.
You know what's so
for
nice
him.
about him, and I'll give him like public credit for. We were making that movie, and it was really hard. It was like physically difficult. We were traveling everywhere, and it was just sort of disorienting on a lot of levels. And Vince and I would come back to the hotel every night and do yoga. We would just do like a half-hour of yoga, like really stretch everything out, get really zen, maybe even look over our scenes for the next day, and then go to bed.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
That's great.
That was all him. I would never have done that. Never have done that organically.
That's nice. He's I haven't seen him in a long time, but he's great. I know the fans will actually kill me if I don't ask you about something, but I'm going to ask it in a very specific way.
Okay.
So lots of people are big fans of yours as Oz.
Oh, yeah.
Buffy the Vampire
Yeah.
Slayer. So how would you go about talking about that to a person who has never seen Buffy the Vampire Slayer? I'm kidding. I've seen Buffy, and it's great, and Joss is fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
I mean, but I was never like I'm a passing Buffy fan. But like I've learned this in the past when I've talked about people who have been on shows and projects like that. Like if I just blurt, tell me a little bit about that, they go fucking crazy. So I don't
Really?
Yeah, they really do. Fans go insane if I don't bridge a video game thing, or like when we had Phil Lamar, I pissed off half the world because I didn't ask about some voice he did in a video game. And I was like, guys, I'm not a video guy. I don't do video games.
Yeah.
That's why Kevin and I borrow from Kevin, which is we only book people on the show that we're actually fans of. Because it's not a 6-minute segment where Letterman has to ask the 5 questions on the card and then, okay, I'm going home.
Right.
It's like, I'm not going to sit and try to talk to you for 90 plus minutes if I'm not a fan of the work.
Well, that's fair. And it also helps that we know each other. So
It does help.
So we can just like have a rapport.
Exactly.
Well, it's public, but a lot of people don't know that I was in the Buffy movie.
Oh, that's right.
So I met the Kazooie family and Christy Swanson, and I had already known Luke from 90210. I got to meet Paul Rubens, who I'd met when I was a kid, but he didn't remember that, so I just met him anew.
Yeah.
And I got to do a scene with him, and that was really all I cared about. I got vampire teeth and stuff. Got to ride a fly rig for the first time.
Awesome.
It was all really cool shit. The whole scene got cut out of the movie.
Yeah. Although, if I'm not mistaken,
it's on the back of the box.
Back of the box.
It's on the back of the video box.
There
It
you
was
go.
one of the best. It was one of the only on-set stills they got of a vampire biting someone's neck, apparently. And anyway, so then I knew Sarah Gellar from New York. We did commercials together, and I got and Allison Hannigan too, who I'd done My Stepmother's an Alien with, and she did a show called Free Spirit that I did a guest spot on. And so I knew they were on this show when I went to read for it. And you know, I audition all the time. That was all I did, was audition all the time.
Sure.
Guest spots, day play, whatever it is. And so I just did that like any other thing. He was like a rocker kid, supposed to be a little bit offbeat.
Yeah.
So I just came in and auditioned for it, and then I got it. I was stoked. But you know, even then, I didn't realize the kind of writer that Joss was.
Yeah.
I knew that he was writing this really competent allegory for teen alienation, but I didn't understand the depth of his skill set. So I knew Ed Solomon, who wrote Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. And so Ed wrote the first draft of X-Men for Fox, and I got to read it. And then I got to read Joss's polish. So here's the thing that people don't know about movies, is a lot of time a movie will get written and then a lot of people come in and fix stuff. But most cases, especially with a big movie like X-Men, they have already started building either practical or digital assets to support whatever the major set pieces are, the major stunt sequences. You know, like in True Lies, it's that bridge.
Yeah.
In Transformers 2, it's like the pyramids or whatever the big set piece is. So Joss had to come in and polish this script, fix where they felt there were lacks in character development without changing anything.
Yeah.
And I watched, because I read both drafts, I saw how surgically he would adjust something that entirely changed the human component of the story. And I was just humbled by it. I was like, really, holy shit, the level of comprehension of the human condition and the ability to express it from different points of view. It was so clear that this guy was like next level.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, this is great. I'm getting to play this part. All the other writers on that show gave me incredible material to play. I got to be a romantic lead for the first time in a way like that. I had to play guitar and be a fucking werewolf. Like, it was one of the better experiences, and I look back on it with such gratitude that I got to be a part of something that's become so culturally significant over time.
Yeah.
Plus, I got to play with a bunch of my friends.
Yeah, and that's the one of my favorite parts about having done this for as long as we both have, and you've got me housed on that. But it's like you work on a thing and you don't even realize until you show up. Like 4 of your old friends are also working on the same project.
Yeah, if you don't quit, you'll just keep running into the same people.
Yeah, and then it just becomes just hang out. Tom Hanks, we had him on the show. He says when he's thinking about taking a job, he needs to know everyone else involved because he said, honestly, the work is great, but it's all about the hang.
We had the cutest moment. I met him a bunch of times, and I even told him at some charity thing that I watched him on the Actors Studio, and what he said was profoundly influential to me because he talked about, as a comedian, developing a series of physical tricks to replicate the appearance of emotion.
Yeah.
And how different a performer he became between Bachelor Party in Philadelphia, and just talked about the breakthroughs that he had mentally that crossed that threshold into real acting. And when I met him, I was like, hey man, I actually have to tell you, I really appreciate it when you say that. And he said, because you know what I'm talking about. And I said, yes, I do. And it was a really small moment. And then I got to see him 10 or 15 years later.
Yeah.
And now I'm friends with Colin, his kid. And so I'm at some desk checking in, and he's like walking out, and he goes, oh, hey, how you doing? I go, hey, how you doing? I say, hey, congratulations. I talked to Colin, he said, just had a baby, and then he goes, oh yeah, you guys all know each other, huh? And I go, yeah, it's just like, you guys all know each other. Yeah. And he just sort of laughed. He's like, yeah, I guess so. I was like, yep.
That's how it works. Yeah, so, oh man, I want to talk about, all right, I'll go with this one first.
Let's hear it.
This is really interesting to me.
Yeah.
You have worked now.
We still have 40 minutes, P.S.
Oh, great.
We're never
dude.
going to fill this time.
Oh, no, you'd be surprised. I'm going to ask this question, then I'm going to go to a chat room question because I think it might be fun.
Because who is still watching?
Oh, believe me, man, the people who tune in for you, they want to hear every little bit.
All right.
Oh, yeah, you've got serious
Break a
fans,
sweat.
man.
Jesus.
It's a little warm in here, I know, right? If
Actually,
we had
yeah,
the
can I
AC
get some
full
more
blasting. Yeah, we got. It's full on? Yeah. Oh, man. Kenny Chen, thank you, doctor. All right.
I'll catch it. He said confidently.
And now you're soaked.
Felt good.
Yeah, I'll bet.
Like the Mister at Magic Mountain.
They have those in Vegas. Doesn't do anything. Okay, here's my question. According to my research, if we include the deleted scenes from, but no, we're not going to include the deleted scene from Buffy. So, not including that, you have appeared unbilled with real roles in 5 films now.
Really?
Yes.
What else is it in?
Okay.
Well, I know I'm uncredited in Enemy of the State.
You're uncredited in Enemy of the State. You're uncredited as the voice of Howard the Duck in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, because it was a secret. Well, because the Howard the Duck
Sure.
ad was a secret.
Yes.
It'll probably be like post in the DVD credits. It's not in the DVD credits?
Evidently not. This one took
Well,
me
the
by
internet
surprise.
knows,
That's
doesn't
true. These first 2, I saw the movies and saw you in them. Be Cool and Josie and the Pussycats.
Oh yeah, I guess are we not credited in Josie?
According to the internet, no.
That's funny. And
And
be
then-
cool. You know, it's because that's what agents get
Yeah.
you sometimes. So here's the thing. If you are, as a performer, your agent has the ability to increase your quotes.
Sure.
And increase the perception of your importance. Right. So this was all those projects are all in a time where I was either making a more competitive day rate,
Yep.
or was receiving higher billing on comparable projects.
Right.
Where I just said, well, I want to do this.
Yeah.
And they said, well, then we'll just do it uncredited.
Do it as a cameo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with, well, I'll start with Enemy of the State. So Enemy of the State was, I don't think I could be a bigger fan of Tony Scott. Like, I deeply love Tony Scott.
Oh, yeah.
And then was buddies with his niece and got to hang out for 3-4 years, just like in that whole clique. And so one time we're randomly out at dinner, and I got to sit across from Tony, and he's telling me about this whole new project he's putting together and how he's been touring the NSA, and it's all just fucking teenagers, mate. They're just all teenagers there. And so, like, he's telling me about all these kids and this movie he's gonna do with Hackman and Will Smith and all the NSA teenagers recruited straight out of college, and so you'll be one of those guys, and then blah, 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 blah. And it's all this thing with these satellites, and I was like, you just said, I heard you say, I'll be one of those guys? And I just didn't say anything. I just said that in my head over and over and over again while I tried to listen to whatever else he was talking about. And then like 6 months later, I got brought in to read with him and Bruckheimer.
Yeah.
And because I had known him for a couple of years at this point, I was like, oh, I'm gonna crush this audition. And so I read Barry Pepper's character, the guy that comes to do the investigation. He shows up, like, produces his ID and asks all these important questions about specific stuff and tries not to be alarming, but at the same time, it's a very serious situation, right? Yeah. So I went to Toys R Us and I bought a police badge kit, you know, like one of those boxes that has like Captain and shit. I went to a photo booth and I took a picture of myself in a tie with a jacket, looking very severe. And I made an ID with a badge and I wore a suit to the audition. And right when I walked in, Tony goes like this. Okay, right. And so then I sit down and we do the interview, and when I pull the fucking badge out and I don't break and I say, hey, Special Agent Harrison here with the NSA, would you hear me produce a couple of... I just watched him go like this. And he and Bruckheimer exchanged a look, and I was like, And so I got to do a really little part in that movie that wound up becoming a bigger part.
Yeah.
Originally, I was just a guy in a van, and then they screened the movie and realized that the audience was having trouble tracking the action. And so they added in a ton of shit of me explaining the action on the comm. And even a scene where I like speak to a room full of people, all of whom had been cast under the auspices that they were like the lead on the tag team. And now I'm doing the thing, and I can see Barry Pepper like, fuck is this? What is happening here? And then that was really how that happened.
Yeah.
But it was meant to be Unbilled. Oh, and it was like, I was working on Buffy at the time.
Yeah.
And so I was doing nights and mornings and like multi-hour makeup processes. And I would get a call at like 2 in the morning, and they're like, hey, any way you can come downtown? We're shooting a bunch of pickups in the van. Need you for about 4 or 5 hours. And I was like, I'll come until my call time, but then I'm gonna have to go to work. And so I just stayed up all night, shot all that shit in the van. And then I was like, it's 5:49 and my call is 6:20, about a half hour from here. Tony, I got to split. He goes, all right, everybody, Buffy's gonna go. Buffy's gonna go. Good night, Buffy. Like that.
That's awesome, dude.
It was awesome. It was awesome. And I just, you know, I don't know. But that's agents for you. And the same thing with Be Cool. It was like, I wanted to do that thing. I think it was Gary was directing it. Gary Gray was directing that. And I got to do a scene with Travolta. It was like the second or third time I got to work with him. Just, you know, you want, as an actor, you just want on-set experience. You just want to be able to participate, and you can't really have the ego about where your billing is or what you're getting paid for, because none of that's real. None of that matters in the end. No one remembers any of that. They just remember the performance.
I've tried to get Unbilled in a couple of things, and they don't do it. I was in the...
It's also a different time, I think. I don't know, man. Any one of those things is 10 years ago.
Well, all right. Well, what about Iron Man 2? Expo fan.
Well, but that's just, this is a total fucking accident. So I know Jon Favreau for a long time, and John was like, hey, you want to come visit the set? We're doing a bit with Stan tonight. And I was like, yes, of course I'm going to come.
Oh, yeah.
Because Stan Lee was going to be there.
Okay.
And so we're just hanging out, and he goes, hey, do you guys want to be on camera real quick? And I was like, what is it? And he goes, Tony, we're doing this first-person thing. He's walking to a party. It'd just be funny if there were celebrities there. And I go, what do you want me to say? And he goes, just say whatever. Ask him if you can buy a suit or whatever. I was like, okay, cool. So they do 2 passes of it. It's me and Claire. And he goes past the first time. I go, Tony, that suit looks amazing. When's it going to be out for retail? Tony, like that, right?
Yeah.
And then the second time through, I grab the guy by the shoulder and get real close to the camera. I go, hey, Tony, we both went to the doctor. You should get checked. Good to see you, buddy. Like that. And so John came over to me and goes, what did you say? I don't know. I just thought it was funny. And so we got 2 takes through it, and then they clipped the whole thing, but John he said he literally left a flash frame, just a flash frame,
Just
so we
a
could be in the
flash.
movie. So we could be in the movie.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's fun.
That's
so I'm not
awesome.
really in that movie,
Well,
but I was there.
I mean, you were there. Oh, man. Jamie, do you have any questions for our guest, the wonderful Seth Green?
Me personally?
Yeah, I mean, I know sometimes we just... Then Kenny?
Kenny had a really good question. What was your?
You know I love to include you guys.
I was making those lower third thingies, and it said on the IMDb that you might have been in the Sega CD game.
Oh, the Marky Mark game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you could maybe share some of experience.
It's not a very exciting story. So early on in CD-ROM technology, there was a game for, it was PlayStation, right? Sega. So this is so far long ago. It's probably like
God,
18,
yeah, that's
18 or
early
something. And they were
90s.
trying to pioneer like CD-ROM interactive games.
Yeah.
And Marky Mark had a make my video game. It was funny is I ran into one of the other actors and I goes, yo, bro, we were the stoners on the couch. And I was like, that's hilarious. Because for a period of time, I had really locked up the affable stoner guest star role.
Yeah.
Like anything. So I was playing the guy. I was like, oh no, we're gonna make this video, bro. We're gonna help you, Marky Mark. We'll make a video, bro, or whatever.
Yeah.
So insanely stupid. I don't know if anybody ever played it. No one has ever produced a copy of it for me to sign. And I've gotten some pretty random shit. If
Kenny, that's
anybody
on
finds
you.
that,
Kenny, get in your time machine.
I'd be impressed.
Go back.
If anyone could produce one for you to sign, it's Dr. Kenny
And if you
Chandler.
can, when you go back in time, change the A in Marky Mark's name to a U so it's Murky Murk. And then we'll see if any of us recognize the schism in the timeline.
Well, you're 2 steps ahead always. All right, from the chat room, Francis Kelly has some...
I'm really like feeling this caffeine.
Oh,
BS.
good.
Yeah.
Thank God. You're feeling it for both of us. Francis Kelly wants to know, what is your favorite board game? And that's B-O-A-R-D.
Probably Scrabble.
Yeah?
I like Scrabble, but I'll play Clue after that. My wife and I have been playing a lot of Clue.
Really?
Yeah, and then we get into other stuff like Cards Against or Werewolf or Mafia kind of stuff. But I like people. Card games, like, I don't like cards.
Okay, no, board game.
Like, do you go to Vegas? Do you gamble?
I do.
Do you play cards?
Yeah.
Do you go to like Texas Hold'em nights at your buddy's houses
Yeah.
and stuff? I don't like any of that.
Okay.
It really put me on the outside of a lot of social things because I don't like cards.
Do you know what...
It wasn't on purpose. I'm just bad at it.
Yeah,
I'm terrible at it.
yeah. I've had things like that over the years where it's like there's a thing and a group of people and they are into it and I'm just not, and
Yeah.
I'm fine with it.
It's all right.
I'll make friends who do other things.
Right.
It's fine. Now I want to know, what is your favorite board game? B-O-R-E-D. No, that's not a
So
question.
silly. That's
Norm Macdonald.
Do you remember that?
That was one of the greatest moments in the history of television.
Brilliance. For those of you that don't know, when Courtney Thorne-Smith was on Conan promoting Chairman of the Board, coincidentally, Norm Macdonald stayed on the couch and just relentlessly shit on the movie over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And if I remember the setup,
She wouldn't say the
says-
title of the movie. She was hesitant to say the title of the movie because she was taking so much heat. She was talking about other stuff, and then Conan
She
kept trying to
finally
come back
says
to
it.
it. And she was like, it's called Chairman of the Board.
And Norm goes, oh yeah, but it's spelled B-O-R-E-D.
But it was because she says that, and then there was a moment though. But before he says that, Conan was like, "All right, make fun of that one." And then there was like a 10-second gap, and she starts saying something else, and then Norm was like, "Ah!" As bored as B-O-R-E-D, and Conan loses it.
Oh my God.
That is on YouTube. I guarantee you, it will make your day.
I love him. Norm Macdonald's so funny. Well, and then
good.
separately, I love Conan too. And then we finally had Courtney on Robot.
Oh,
She
yeah?
was awesome, yeah.
Oh, that's great, man.
Yeah.
You've had a lot of people on.
We did a weird calculation of it, and we figured out that we've had more individual guest stars than Saturday Night Live.
That's wild.
Because we'll have 3 to 5 guest stars at a time, and
Yeah.
SNL will have a single guest star for their entire episode.
Yeah. Now you yourself, though, and this came up in my research yesterday, and this is probably a font size 6. This is what happens if you try to print out all the characters that Seth himself has voiced on Robot.
Wow.
It starts here, And I mean, this is like a font. There's at least 4 names in each line.
You should qualify that with most of those characters are like one line or one word or like a single thing. Because Robot's all like rapid fire sketch, and so we can only afford so many actors, and then any of the lines that aren't actual characters, I just pick it up.
That's insane, though.
It's not as crazy as it seems.
I know,
For somebody that spent their entire life like practicing voices under their bed.
I just got such a kick out of it, though, because that's literally like that's on there. That's forever. That's permanent. You did all those voices.
As permanent as digital media
So
remains,
when I
sure.
So when I like
after the massive cataclysm, when all of the chips are turned back into dust or glass. Yeah.
Well, the next time we have you on, I'm going to
stored
say
deep in crystal.
I'm going to go and I'm going to count it, and I'm going to say you've known him from the different roles he's essayed as 1,600 people, like you're a Bollywood actor. Like I can't even. Well, all right. I want to talk about one more movie, and then I'm going to let you get on your Sunday way.
Okay.
I want to talk about Party Monster.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Which is really a cool movie,
Thanks,
and
man.
I want people who don't know about it to know about it. I want people who've maybe heard the title but are like, oh yeah, no, I heard it was that cool movie from a few years ago. I've never seen it, and you need to see it. And I can tell you, it is on iTunes. Among other things, you can rent it on iTunes.
Sweet.
So people have no excuse after listening to this to not check this movie out. That's a crazy movie. I saw it in theaters.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I saw it.
You must have been in either New York or Los Angeles.
I was here in LA.
We opened in exactly 3 screens across the country.
Yeah, I want to say the Sunset 5.
It's very
where
complicated. I learned a lot about how independent film works and gets released over the course of trying to make that movie.
Yeah.
That was something for me that was like weirdly personal. My sister used to go to those clubs. My sister used to take the train to New York with her buddy and hung out with Michael Alec. So So in New York in the early '90s, there was a club promoter named Michael Alec, and he was a pioneering creative inventor who took all of the lessons of Andy Warhol and Studio 54 and the notion of celebutance and creating celebrity. And they used to say this about 54. They would have these characters, these larger-than-life personalities that were stars of their own.
Yeah.
And so if you didn't see Iggy Pop, if you didn't see David Bowie or Mick Jagger, whoever, you might see Fleur de Lis or Lady Blossom Bottom or whatever, whatever it is, And so when Michael Alec hit the scene in New York, it was with all of this creativity, with all of this artistry, with these elaborate costumes, with these complicated personas, and it was all about celebration of life and creativity and dancing and also drugs and sex and all those other things that go along with sort of bacchanalian experiences. But they traveled across the country and went on all of the chat shows and basically recruited kids from around the world or around the country to come and party with them in New York.
Yeah.
And created this scene over a couple of years that was made so much money, but was also wildly unrestricted, both in its creativity and in its sort of unpoliced darkness.
Yeah.
And so, like things do, it got very, very out of control. They all got lost on drugs. They all got lost in power. And Michael killed his drug dealer and dismembered him and put his body parts in a box that became a coffee table for months until he finally threw it in the river.
Yeah.
And so he was eventually caught and he was in jail. He just got out recently, which is crazy.
Oh, wow.
But there was a book written by the guy who was by his side the entire time, James St. James, who's a terrific writer, and this book really got me. So I got invited to meet Randy Barbato and Fenton Bailey, who were the guys that made the documentary about Michael Alec in the Club Kids scene, and they wanted to make a marginally fictionalized accounting of it, a linear accounting of it, and they asked me if I'd be interested in playing James. And so first of all, I was so flattered because I never get offers. But especially for someone to say, oh yeah, this is an incredibly complicated, emotional, dramatic performance, we think you'd be it. And so, like I said, I never look a gift horse in the mouth. I watched the documentary, I read the book, I was like, I will absolutely do this.
Yeah.
And I was like so excited to take it on. And you know what's interesting is I had a role, I had an audition. Shit, I wish I could remember exactly what the movie was. But it was a character, like a drag queen character. And I was like 20 years old when I read it, when I auditioned for it, and I just wasn't as prepared as an actor as I was when I got offered Party Monster.
Yeah.
And so I went and did the audition. I was fine, but I really lacked the basic essence of the character in my performance. And I always regretted not trying harder and like having too much ego to like go for it. And so when I got offered this role, I was like, I'm gonna own this. I'm gonna own this.
Yeah.
And I worked like harder than I think I've ever worked on any other movie to really get it right. And especially because I had such love for James St. James, I wanted to portray him in a way that was demonstrative of how complex and unique he is.
Oh yeah.
And so, you know, we made this movie like 28 days, no, all forced calls, absolutely no turnaround. I dedicate that movie to Red Bull.
It's if memory serves, I feel like 80% of the budget was wardrobe and makeup.
Well, a lot of people donated a lot of stuff, and we had people that were involved in the scene that donated their own costumes and time and makeup and put themselves together to be extras in scenes.
I
and
mean,
you can feel it. You can
the
feel
makeup
the
in that
authenticity
movie,
in it.
especially the makeup you're wearing throughout that. I mean, how many hours a day were you in the chair?
We had to like cycle so that we could just jump on stage, and then you'd spend the time in the chair while they're filming some other sequence so that you're ready to go.
Oh yeah.
And then the movie that had financed, or the company that had financed the movie was cash poor. Excuse me, cash poor in advance, and so they really needed a return on their investment to not go under. And instead of holding out after Sundance for, you know, a larger distribution deal and sort of making your secondary stuff less important, they went for the cash-rich Blockbuster buyout. And so Blockbuster offered them like $500,000 for exclusive rights to the DVD for a period of time, not knowing, of course, that Blockbuster was going to disintegrate in less than that period of time.
Yeah.
And so they made that deal, which was the money deal, and then they got, you know, Strand Releasing, which was a small release company, and they put it out on 3 screens across the country. And so in the same year, or the year after Boys Don't Cry got nominated for Oscars, our movie was completely ignored. And you know, I'm not saying that it should have gotten the same kind of accolades, but you put so much effort into something, and you really just want people to see it.
Absolutely.
And we really felt like nobody saw it. But what's happened, interestingly enough, because it's, you know, more than 12 years since we made it, that mindset of the artistry, the creativity, the not holding your flaws against you, that sort of utopian acceptance of however it is that you want to express yourself and display yourself, that's become more accepted. That's become more than ever before. And even with the advent of Facebook and the seeming tolerance of all these different types of people, whether it's the success of a show like Glee or, I'm trying to think of even better examples, but
No, those are all
I've
great.
had all these kids under 20 say that they saw Party Monster, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that they felt it. And that's
Absolutely.
more than I could have ever asked
No,
for.
you and Mac are, the way you guys play off of each other in that and created that world and this real rapport between these two characters it's phenomenal.
Well, it's such an interesting, James and Michael, it's such an interesting relationship because they do love each other. They have such love for each other, even though they are like opposing forces. Yeah. I love that movie. I'm really proud of it. It's a strange thing because it just sort of exists. But I guess that's all you are as an actor. It's like the sum of all of these things that people have either seen or haven't.
Yeah, and I want to tell people it is available. I looked before I wanted to start talking about it.
It's a tough movie to watch though. Like it's a dark slice of.
It is not a feel-good movie.
No, it really shows. It's a portrait of just how bad good ideas can go.
Yeah. Were any of those scenes shot actually at Limelight? Or was
No, we never shot because Limelight had become. We shot at the door. We shot at the front door.
Yeah.
We shot at the front door where James used to sit.
Yeah.
And I got to be James in that.
That's
in
awesome.
that seat. It was crazy.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but we couldn't go inside because it was other businesses then.
Ah, that's right. Unbelievable. Okay, well, man, I can't thank you enough. I've hit everything I wanted to talk to you about. The one thing I did just goofily have here is just Matthew McConaughey. That's literally the one note I have there. I didn't write anything after it. I just wrote Matthew McConaughey.
You know, I'm sure you do impressions. Like I grew up always trying to imitate cartoon characters or people. And so, you know, sometimes your natural voice or at least your octave range fits in with somebody and you're like, oh, I got that guy.
Yeah.
And I saw Dazed and Confused, one of my favorite, like remains one of my top 10 movies. That movie is so perfect. And McConaughey is iconic in it. His whole thing is so distinct, and so that's where I came. I just practice writing there all the time, man. Okay, thing I love about them high school girls, man, as I get older, they stay same age. Right, so then that became a thing that I did like for fun for McFarlane and whatever, and I did it. I wound up doing it in the show. Yeah. He just wanted to do this whole bit about McConaughey and Stewie in like a life raft together. Yeah. And my whole thing is that why I love Matthew McConaughey is that he doesn't give a shit about how you take him. Yep. He is going to find the bright side of all of it. He's an incredibly positive force. I think he's a super talented actor. I don't know, man. I fucking love the guy. Yeah. And so the bit that we did is Stewie like, you're just terrible. You're just absolutely terrible. And him just being like, terrible is just a word that means great in another language. You know? So just won't let him have it. The boy, it sounds good. It's gonna get a real good tan out of here. You know what I mean? Yeah. I like him.
I thank you for indulging my childish whims with the McConaughey voice. Oh, buddy, I can't thank you enough.
You're funny.
You've
thank
been
you, man.
so generous with your
nice
time.
to chat with you.
This is so much fun for me as a friend and as a fan. I did warn you that you can't leave this table without playing the Larry King game.
Oh, right. I forget.
So I will give you the rules again.
Right, so it's the
bad Larry King impression.
Bad Larry King.
Whatever your interpretation
Coming
of that
back
is.
from a call.
It's anything. He's maybe finishing a conversation, whatever it is. It's just some aside, a weird thought, a memory, sharing something, anything Larry wants that maybe the audience didn't need to know.
Right.
And then at the end of it, he throws to the phones. Right. And if the name of the city you throw to is funny, it's not going to hurt. Take your time. Whenever you're ready, that is your camera.
Right.
And so have at it, my friend.
Thank you for that, Constance. It reminds me of a time when I was at Thanksgiving as a child. I played with the family dog, and I was on the ground rubbing the dog's belly, and the dog became aroused. And I really had to say, have I sexually assaulted this dog, or is that an involuntary reaction that comes from something that never had that intent? Martha in Kalamazoo, let's go to the phones.
And that is how you play the Larry King game. It's just that easy.
I like the idea of him struggling with his culpability in that dog's direction.
Yeah, that's haunted him his whole life.
I could have caused that. That dog doesn't know. He's misinformed.
Maybe he had a thing for young boys. I don't know. That's great, man. Thank you so much,
Thanks,
truly,
Sam.
Seth. On behalf of Kevin and the whole chat show.
Oh, yeah, bye, Kevin.
Thanks for coming. Yeah, bye, Kev. He better be asleep, man. It's late.
He just went to bed, but he had one question. He wants to know when he's going to be on Robot Chicken.
Has he never done the show?
Yeah. You're very good at that reaction.
Well, because that's actually the reaction is we've been at this a long time, and I just kind of assumed that everybody's done it. Well, I found like 2 years ago, I realized that Allison Hannigan had never done the show. I know. I had to. I was like,
that's 10 times more fucked up than
scrambled
Kevin.
to correct it. And sometimes I can implement right away. Like right now, we're finishing up all the records for the season, so it's a really terrible time for me to try and like sneak anybody in.
Okay.
And it'll be about 12 months before we start doing VO again for it. So we're just about
a year.
It is.
Good God.
Well, because we'll be in production on this season until at least March. March or April.
Yeah. Okay, man. Well, that's fine. You know, you got to bring me and Kevin in there.
Have you never been on the show?
We've had this conversation. We had this conversation a week and a half
Wait,
ago.
did I text Matt? And did I text Matt?
Oh, I don't know.
Didn't I text him like right when we said it?
I think we were talking about it at lunch, yes.
Because that's always the key.
I know.
That's always the key, is if I text right in that moment to Matt, then it gets on the list.
Well, I think clearly we need to do some sort of thing with the chat show so we can
What
get
do you
me and
want to
Kevin
do?
in there. I'll
Do you have any
anything.
stuff do you have any like people that you play?
I do. I feel like this is an off-air conversation.
Okay.
Because we're still, and I don't want to tip the hand of anything that's might come on the thing.
That's fair.
On the thing, you know. But thank you, Kevin. I hope you're having delightful dreams.
Yes, I'd be happy to have you on, Kevin.
And yeah,
I'd be delighted for you to lend
would love to
all of
come
your
on.
awesome talent to our show.
This is God, we got lucky today. I'm so grateful to you. Thank you so much
You're
again.
so cute.
I want to thank our magnificent crew. You got your Dr. Kenny Chen.
Thanks, guys, for coming in
Jamie
an hour
Foxx.
earlier. Appreciate
Yeah.
it. Or 2
Mike-
hours earlier.
No,
right.
Mike Duman, Jason McIntyre, Natalie Rosen, our social media maven. I don't know Megan's last name. Megan Williams, our wonderful, talented makeup artist.
Sorceress.
Who a sorceress indeed, who made us look beautiful today. I want to thank the wonderful people at the West Side Comedy Theater for hosting us. And I want to thank you, the viewers, for tuning in or downloading or however it is you imbibed this episode of Kevin Pollock's Chat Show. There will be an episode again next week, the 23rd. Please check that out. Our guest will be TBD. I hear he or she is wonderful.
Oh, yeah, his album's going to drop like 2 weeks from now.
Yes. And of course, thank you to Kevin Pollock for, Kevin Pollock's Chat Show. Without you, there really is no Chat Show. So for me and everyone here, until next time, fuck off.